I snatched my granddaughter out of her own birthday party because her mother shaved her bald and called it discipline. Before we start, let me know in the comments where you're watching my story from, so I can see how far it has reached. My name is Raymond Carter, and at 69 years old I never thought I'd be the one standing between a child and her own parents. I've been through a lot of my life, growing up in the South during segregation, marching for civil rights as a young man, building a life in Chicago brick by brick, but nothing prepared me for the sight I saw that Saturday afternoon. It was supposed to be a day of joy. My son Marcus was turning 30, and he and his wife had invited the family to their new townhouse on the south side of Chicago. I'd baked my famous chocolate pound cake, the one my granddaughter Layla always asked for. Layla's only 6, but she's got a smile bright enough to light up a whole city block. I expected to see her barreling down the hallway the way she always does, braids bouncing, calling out, "Grandpa Ray," in that sweet voice that melts the hardest day. But the second I stepped inside that living room, everything felt wrong. The house smelled of barbecue and air freshener. The TV was playing some R&B playlist, and relatives were laughing on the balcony. Balloons floated near the ceiling, and a big banner said, "Happy 30th Marcus," in gold letters. But Layla wasn't running around with her cousins. She was sitting alone on the far end of the couch, head bowed, wearing a pink baseball cap way too big for her. She looked like she was trying to disappear. Something inside me, the same instinct that saved my skin more than once, twisted hard. I set the cake on the kitchen counter and walked slowly toward her. "Hey, baby girl," I said softly. "Where's my hug?" She looked up at me, and my heart dropped. Her big brown eyes were full of tears she was trying not to spill. "Grandpa," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I can't take off my hat. Mommy says I look ugly without it." My hand started to tremble. I knelt down, my knees protesting like old hinges, and gently lifted the brim of her cap. What I saw nearly knocked the breath out of me. Her beautiful hair, the soft, coily hair I'd watched her mother braid, the hair I'd oiled with my own hands, was gone. Not cut short, gone. Her scalp was shaved raw, little nicks and patches where the razor had caught. It looked like someone had punished her, not styled her. "Oh Lord," I breathed. "Who did this to you?" Layla's mouth trembled. She glanced toward the kitchen where her mother was laughing with a glass of wine in her hand. "Mommy," she whispered. I stood slowly. My chest felt like a furnace about to blow. "Angela," I called out. My daughter-in-law turned, smiling like she was posing for a photo. She's 29, always polished, nails sharp enough to cut glass. "Yes, Mr. Carter," she sang, swaying her wine glass. "What happened to Layla's hair?" I asked, my voice low but steady. Angela smiled wider, showing teeth. "Oh, did you see her new look? Isn't it modern? It's all the rage now." "Modern," I echoed. "You shaved a 6-year-old's head and call it modern." Angela shrugged. She never wanted to wash it, always crying when I tried to comb it. So I fixed the problem. "It's just hair, Ray. It grows back." "It's just hair," I said, feeling the words like poison. "Then you shave yours." Marcus came in from the balcony, a tray of drinks in his hands. "Pop, please," he said before I'd even looked at him. "It's my birthday. Don't start. Don't start." I snapped. "Your daughter's sitting here looking like she's been through a war." "She's fine," Marcus muttered. "It's just hair." I turned back to Angela. "A joke? You call humiliating a child a joke?" "Ray," she said, rolling her eyes, "you're being dramatic. Kids these days are so sensitive." Behind me, Layla had slipped off the couch and was pressing herself against my leg, tiny hands clutching my pant leg like I was a lifeboat. She was trembling, her little body shaking like a bird in a storm. I crouched and whispered, "Baby, you want some water? Let's go to the kitchen." Angela stepped sideways, blocking us. "No, she's been hiding behind you long enough. She needs to stay." "She needs water," I said, my voice quiet but iron. "She's fine," Angela snapped. "Move," I said. Angela hesitated, and for a split second her mask cracked. I saw the flash of something cold in her eyes. But then she stepped aside. I guided Layla into the kitchen, away from the music and chatter. The air smelled of barbecue, but under it was something sharp, like fear. I lifted her onto a stool, turned on the tap, and filled a glass. "Tell Grandpa what happened," I said gently. She sipped, her small fingers trembling. "Yesterday morning, Mommy woke me up mad. She said my hair was dirty and I was nasty. She got Daddy's machine, the one he uses on his beard. She told me to stay still or she'd hurt me. I cried and begged her to stop, but she didn't. She kept going until all my hair was on the floor." I closed my eyes. For a heartbeat, I was back in my own childhood, hearing my mother's voice, remembering the sting of humiliation. Then I opened them again, and all I saw was my granddaughter's shaved head. "Was your daddy home?" I asked quietly. "In the living room watching TV," she said. I screamed. "He didn't come." I gripped the counter until my knuckles ached. "Baby," I said softly, "you're beautiful, with or without hair. Don't you ever think otherwise?" She looked at me, hope flickering but not yet catching. Really, I said. "Your Grandma Rosa would have put a crown of flowers on that little head and marched you down 63rd Street, so everybody could see." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. I knew then what I had to do. This wasn't just about hair. This was about humiliation, fear, and a little girl who no one had stood up for. I wasn't going to stand by anymore. I straightened, my knees cracking, and held out my hand. "Come on, baby girl," I said. "Grandpa's here now." I didn't let that fragile smile be the last good thing that happened to my granddaughter that day. I wiped the rim of her water glass, set the pink cap aside like it was a weapon I just unloaded, and said, "We're going to step back out there for a minute, Layla. You stay behind me. If you feel scared, squeeze my hand twice. That's our signal. You hear?" She nodded, small and serious, the way children become when adults around them stop being safe. The music in the living room had switched to an upbeat track, somebody's cousin trying to shout jokes over it, as if noise could drown truth. I walked out with Layla tucked to my hip, my hand covering the side of her head like a shield. The family saw us, and the laughter hitched. Angela leaned on the breakfast bar like a hostess at a bad restaurant, lips glossy, glass half full and full of herself. "Let's make this quick," she said. "It's a party." "No," I replied. "It's a reckoning." My sister Bernice, Auntie B to everyone, hair wrapped in a bright scarf, eyes that missed nothing, was by the dining table arranging paper plates. She glanced up, saw Layla's bare scalp, and went pale under brown. "Lord have mercy," she whispered, hand to chest. Across the room, our neighbor Mr. Jefferson, retired CTA mechanic, church usher, the kind of man who still shines his shoes on Saturday night, stood and set his cup down. "Everything all right, Brother Carter?" "It will be," I said, though my voice felt like it was holding back thunder. Angela twirled her glass. "Here we go." I kept my tone even. "Layla," I said, not looking down at her, "I'm going to ask you one thing here, and then we're done talking in front of folks. Yesterday, when Mommy shaved your head, did you cry?" "Yes," she whispered. "What did Mommy say to you while you cried?" Layla's fingers tightened around mine. 2 squeezes. I bent, letting her see my face. "You're safe," she said. Layla managed. Ugly girls cry a lot, and if I told, she'd cut my eyelashes too. The room stopped breathing. The song on the TV kept thumping like a heart that didn't know it was in trouble. Auntie B's mouth fell open. Mr. Jefferson's jaw locked. Someone's fork clinked against a plate and didn't get picked back up. Angela's chin lifted, the false smile gone. "That is not what I said," she snapped. "This little girl is confused. And you," she aimed her glass at me, "are putting words in her mouth like you always do." "I didn't put a razor in her hand," I said. Marcus stepped between us, palms up. He has my height and his mother Rosa's eyes, which used to soften at every hurt. Today they dodged mine. "Pop, we're not doing this," he said, trying to sound like a man in charge and landing somewhere between boy and apology. Angela cut her hair. "That's it. You've turned it into a whole case." "It is a case," I answered. "It's the case where a child's dignity got shaved off her head and dumped in the trash." Angela laughed, short, brittle. You're the dramatic one here, Ray. Always been. It's hair. It grows. She'll forget by next week. I looked down. Layla was pressing herself into my side, like she was bracing against wind. Will you forget by next week, baby? I asked quietly. She shook her head. Then we don't forget, I said. Angela rolled her eyes. She's 6. She doesn't know what's best for her. And neither does a woman who threatens to cut eyelashes. Andy be cut in, voice steady and cold. Lord knows I raised 4 and never had to do that. Mr. Jefferson cleared his throat. Sister Angela, discipline is correction with love. Humiliation ain't it? Marcus rubbed his temples. Okay, everybody's got opinions. It's my house. We're done. Pop, you can stay if you're gonna behave. Behave? I repeated, stunned by the word, by the boy who used to fall asleep on my chest using my breath as a lullaby. That your daughter trembling there? Behave. I turned to Layla. Come on, baby, I said, and took a step toward the hallway. Angela moved quick, set the wine down and planted herself in front of us, arms folded. She's not going anywhere. It's her daddy's birthday. She stays. She leaves, I said, and the old steel in my voice surprised even me. That iron had served me in picket lines, hospital rooms, and gravesides. It rose now like a friend. I'm not asking. Marcus squared his shoulders. Pop, don't do this. Do what? I asked. Protect my blood? Angela's calm cracked. You can't take her. I'll call the police. Please do, I said. I would love to explain why your child is shaved and terrified. I'll show them the nicks on her scalp, too. Andy spoke low to Marcus. Boy, look at your baby. Look, he looked. Really looked. For 1 second, the fog in his eyes lifted, and a man I recognized stood there. But the moment passed like a shy animal, and he blinked it away. This is out of hand, he muttered. I agree, I said. I guided Layla down the hallway to the bathroom. I didn't slam the door, but I shut it with finality. I lifted her onto the closed toilet lid and knelt. We're leaving in a minute, I told her. But first Grandpa needs to do something. I took out my phone and switched to the camera. The light was unflattering and honest, which is what I wanted. I asked Layla, is it okay if I take a few pictures? Only so the right people believe you. She nodded. Okay. I photographed the small cuts, the razor burn, the tender skin. I kept my face still, but my hands were not steady. After, I wet a clean washcloth with cool water and laid it over her head. She exhaled, relief like a sigh of summer. That feel better? Yes. I opened the medicine cabinet. Behind Band-Aids and peroxide, I kept a little jar of shea butter for my beard. I warmed a dab in my palms and smoothed it gently over the irritated spots. We'll get some special oil later, I said. The kind that smells like coconut and Sunday morning. Grandpa, she whispered. Yes, baby. Am I ugly now? The question hit like a brick through stained glass. I set the jar down and took her face in my hands. Layla, I said, soft as prayer. You are the most beautiful child I know. With hair, without hair, on your loud days, on your quiet days. Beauty is not a hairstyle. It's how your heart shines. And yours shines like the 4th of July. Her shoulders eased. A small yes settled in her eyes. Okay, I said, standing with an old man's groan. We're going. When we stepped out, the room bristled. Angela's arms were still folded. Marcus stood beside her, jaw clenched. Auntie B hovered near the door, her pocketbook already on her shoulder, like she knew what I'd decided. Mr. Jefferson had picked up his coat, the kind of quiet witness who shows up on the right side of a line. You walk out that door with my daughter, Angela said. And I swear, I cut in. I will do everything the law allows to keep her safe. Marcus's voice cracked. Pop, don't take her from me. I'm taking her from harm, I said, not unkind. You have one job above all, protect your child. If you won't do it, I will. I slipped Layla's sneakers on, tied them in double knots, and scooped her up. She wrapped her arms around my neck and tucked her face under my chin. I could feel the damp of her breath, the stutter of a sob, She wouldn't let out. I kissed the top of her head, tasted salt and shea. At the door, I paused. "Marcus," I said without turning. "I love you. That's why I'm doing this." No one answered. I didn't need them to. Chicago's late afternoon sun bounced off car hoods and the block's red brick row houses. A small crowd of kids shot hoops in the alley. Somebody's grill smoked sweet. Life kept going the way it does even when yours just cracked in two. I strapped Layla into the back seat of my old Buick, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. The radio came on low. Sam Cooke singing something about a change that was going to come. I let him sing. Halfway to my place in Bronzeville, I checked the mirror. Layla was staring out the window, fingers worrying the brim of that pink cap, now resting in her lap, a habit looking for somewhere to live. Her eyelids drooped like the aftermath of a storm. "You can sleep, baby," I said. "I'm right here." By the time I turned onto my block, elm trees arching like old guardians, she was out. I carried her upstairs, her weight a warm ache against my ribs, and laid her on my bed. My apartment smelled like lemon oil and old books. The framed photo of Rosa on the dresser watched me with that steady kindness death couldn't steal. "I'm trying," I told her, like a man reporting in at the end of a shift. I found a soft cotton pillowcase and pulled it gently over a small throw pillow. Set it under Layla's head to keep her scalp from rubbing the sheets. I dimmed the lamp, left the door cracked, then walked to the kitchen and turned the kettle on. My hands were buzzing like I'd drunk 6 cups already. The phone started ringing before the water boiled. "Marcus." I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. I answered on the 4th. "Pop," he said, voice tight. "Bring her back." "No, you can't just take her." "I didn't take," I said. "I rescued." Angela's voice floated in the background, sharp. Marcus lowered his tone. "If you don't bring her back tonight, Angela's calling the police." "Tell her to do it," I said. "I'll be ready with photos, and Mr. Jefferson and Auntie B will be ready with what they saw. And Marcus, ask yourself, when your little girl screamed yesterday, what did you do?" Silence. The kind that has to look at itself in the mirror. "Come see her tomorrow," I said gentler. "But not tonight. She's safe here." I hung up. I don't like hanging up on my son, but some doors you close so the wolves stay out. I poured hot water over a chamomile tea bag and stared at the steam until my eyes watered. In the bedroom, Layla shifted, murmured something that sounded like, "Please," and settled again. I stood in the doorway and watched her breathe, small chest rising and falling under my old white t-shirt I'd slipped over her dress. The scalp looked calmer already, a little shine from the shea catching the lamplight. At my kitchen table, I opened a yellow legal pad. I'm old school like that. When the world spins, I make lists. At the top I wrote, "Protect Layla." Underneath, I laid out steps like railroad tracks. Document everything, photos taken, witnesses, Bernice, Mr. Jefferson. Call an attorney first thing in the morning, someone who handles family law and custody. Pediatrician, have a doctor examine her scalp, note injuries, note statements. Therapist, child trauma specialist. Secure the apartment, set up a space that is hers, not a guest corner. By the time I finished writing, the kettle had cooled and a quiet had settled on the apartment that felt like a blanket. I rinsed Layla's cap in the sink, watched the pink deepen as water darkened the fabric, and set it on the radiator to dry. Maybe one day she'd wear it because she wanted to, not because she'd been told to hide. Around midnight, a small cry snapped me upright. I hurried to the bedroom. Layla was sitting up, eyes wide, breath fast, hands guarding her face. "No, no, please, don't cut." I gathered her into my arms. "It's Grandpa," I murmured. "You're home. No one's cutting anything." Her body trembled against mine, then slowly unwound. I stayed there until her breathing steadied. When she finally slumped back into sleep, I tucked the blanket under her, chin the way Rosa used to do for Marcus. A simple benediction passed down through her hands. Back in the kitchen, I picked up the phone and scrolled to a number I'd kept since the days when most of my students were taller than me and angrier. Walter Pierce, an old friend from church who became a lawyer because he got tired of watching the system chew up people who looked like us. I didn't press call. It was too late to start our next battle tonight. I set the phone face down, turned off the lamp, and let the apartment hold us. Tomorrow I call Walter. Tomorrow I call a doctor. Tomorrow the fight would begin with papers and signatures. Tonight, the only job left was to keep watch. So I did. The morning after felt like one of those heavy Chicago dawns when the sky hangs low and gray, pressing on your chest before you even get out of bed. I hadn't slept more than an hour. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Layla sitting on that couch in her too big pink cap, looking like she wanted to disappear. When I rolled out of bed, she was curled up under my quilt, small fists holding the fabric like it might vanish if she let go. Her breathing was steady now, but even in sleep she whimpered, words tumbling out that made my blood chill. "Don't cut me. I'll be good." I kissed the crown of her shaved head. "You're safe, baby girl," I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I was convincing her or myself. I moved through my apartment like a man on a mission, kettle on, phone in hand, legal pad open where I'd scribbled my list the night before. My whole body ached with the weight of what had to be done, but old bones don't stop a man when his soul's on fire. The first call was to Walter Pierce, my longtime friend and lawyer. Walter and I marched together back in the 70s, when we were young and dumb enough to think the world could change overnight. Now he was 68, sharp as ever, with more years in family court than most of the judges he argued in front of. He answered on the second ring. "Ray, I was just reading the paper. Didn't expect you this early." "Walter," I said, my voice low. "I need help. It's about Layla." I told him everything, from the pink cap to the whispered confession about eyelashes. I didn't leave out a single ugly detail. By the time I finished, Walter was quiet long enough for me to hear the kettle start whistling. "Ray," he said finally, "this isn't just family drama. This is child abuse. Psychological, physical, maybe both. You did right bringing her to your place. But you need to prepare for a fight. They'll come for her. They already threatened to call the cops." He snorted. "Good. Let him. You've got witnesses, photos, and one hell of a story a judge won't ignore. First thing, we file for temporary custody. Emergency basis. That'll buy us time." My hand shook as I poured hot water into my mug. "How long will that take?" "I'll draw it up today. We'll need a doctor's note and, if possible, a child psychologist's evaluation. Judges don't just want pictures. They want professional testimony. You up for taking her in this morning?" "Whatever it takes," I said. "Then do it. And Ray," his voice softened, "I know this is hard, but don't let your anger drive the bus. Let the facts do that. You just keep that girl safe." I swallowed hard. That's all I care about. When Layla woke, the first thing she asked wasn't about breakfast. It was, "Do I have to go home today?" Her voice was so small it barely crossed the air between us. "No, baby," I said, sitting beside her on the bed. "You're staying here with Grandpa. But we gotta go see a doctor, so they can check your head, just to make sure it heals right." Her shoulders tensed. "Will Mommy be there?" "No," I said firmly. "Only you and me." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I dressed her in one of Rosa's old t-shirts I'd saved, faded navy cotton that hung down to her knees. We paired it with some leggings I'd bought at the Walgreens down the block late last night. I tied her sneakers double tight and tucked that pink cap in my pocket. "You don't have to wear it," I told her, "but everyone will see." "Then let 'em see," I said. "Ain't no shame in healing." She hesitated, then whispered, "Okay." By 9 we were at Dr. Patel's office, the pediatrician who'd seen half the kids in Bronzeville grow up. He raised his eyebrows when he saw us, especially Layla's head, but didn't waste time. He asked gentle questions, looked over the cuts, and made notes. "She's got minor abrasions," he said, tilting his glasses. "Nothing serious physically, but the emotional trauma," he paused, choosing his words, "is significant. I'll document everything." "Thank you," I said, meaning more than just the medical part. He leaned closer. "Raymond, do you understand what you're stepping into?" "I do." "Then let me give you the number of a colleague, child trauma specialist. She's good. Get Layla in as soon as possible. Judges listen to doctors, but they trust psychologists when it comes to a child's state of mind. After the appointment, we stopped at a little soul food diner on 47th. Layla perked up when the waitress set down pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. She smeared syrup all over her chin, and for 10 blessed minutes, she looked like any other 6-year-old. I sipped my coffee and memorized the site, because I knew the storm was just gathering strength outside those diner walls. Sure enough, when we stepped back into the street, my phone buzzed with a string of missed calls. Marcus, Angela, then Marcus again. One voicemail was Angela's voice, sharp as broken glass. "You have no right to keep her, Ray. She's mine. Bring her home, or you'll regret it." Layla tugged my sleeve. "Who is it?" "Just noise," I said, deleting the message. "You don't worry about it." Back home, I set her up in the spare room I'd started converting last night. It had been my little office, lined with books and old records. Now it had a twin bed with fresh lavender sheets. A stuffed bear Auntie B had dropped off that morning, and the poster of Jackie Robinson I'd taken down from the hallway to hang above the bed. "Is this mine?" she asked wide-eyed. "All yours," I said. "Every inch." She climbed onto the bed, hugged the bear, and whispered, "It feels safe." I had to step out to the hallway because my throat had closed up. That afternoon, Walter came by with paperwork. He sat at my kitchen table, fountain pen in hand, explaining every line. Layla colored quietly at the counter, her little shaved head bent low over crayons. "This petition will go to Cook County Family Court," Walter said. "We'll ask for emergency custody based on medical and psychological harm. You'll need to swear under oath everything you told me this morning. And your sister Bernice and neighbor Jefferson, can they testify?" "They will," I said. "Good. We'll also need Dr. Patel's report and, hopefully, the psychologist's evaluation. The more we stack, the stronger we stand." He glanced at Layla, then leaned closer to me. "But prepare yourself. Marcus and Angela won't go quietly. They'll argue you're overstepping, that you're trying to replace them. It's going to get ugly." I set my jaw. "Then let it get ugly. I won't let that child go back to hell." Walter nodded, slid the papers across. "Sign here." I did. My hand shook, but the ink dried steady. That night, as I tucked Layla into her new bed, she whispered, "Grandpa." "Yes, baby." "Are the police going to come take me back?" The question stabbed deep because I couldn't promise what the law would decide. But I could promise her this. Not tonight. Tonight you sleep safe. And tomorrow, Grandpa's going to keep fighting. You believe me. She looked at me, long and searching, then finally nodded. "I believe you." I kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and sat in the hallway outside her room, listening to the steady rhythm of her breath. For the first time in 2 days, she slept without nightmares. Me, I sat guard, waiting for the next move, because the battle had only just begun. By sunrise, I already had Dr. Patel's report in my email, typed, signed, and stamped with that official language that turns pain into paragraphs. I printed 2 copies on my old inkjet, the kind that rattles like a lunch cart, and slid them into a folder with the photos I'd taken. I brewed coffee that tasted like Resolve and watched Layla eat toast with strawberry jam, a little red smile she didn't know she was wearing. "Ready to meet a new friend?" I asked. She squinted. "What kind of friend?" "The kind whose office has toys," I said, and her shoulders loosened a fraction. Walter had given me a name, Dr. Simone Harris, child psychologist, black woman in her 50s, reputation in Cook County like a steel beam under a bridge. Nobody sees it until they need it. Then thank God it's there. Her receptionist squeezed us in for late morning. We took the Buick up King Drive, past brick that seemed more than it should, past barbershops with striped poles spinning memory. Layla watched the city slide by, one hand around the bear Auntie B brought, the other creeping sometimes to touch her scalp like she was checking the sky was still there. Dr. Harris's office sat on the 3rd floor of a rehab building in Hyde Park. The waiting room walls were yellow like egg yolks, cheerful without shouting. There was a low shelf of picture books and a basket of dolls, black, brown, tan, all with hair in every possible state. Curly, braided, short, and yes, bald. I saw that, and felt something inside me breathe. A door opened, and Dr. Harris stepped out in a navy dress and flat shoes that said she walks where people are hurting. She had locks pulled into a bun and eyes that met you like a handshake. "Mr. Carter?" she asked, voice warm, professional, unhurried. And this must be Layla. Layla pressed into my leg and peeked up. Dr. Harris crouched to Layla's level, not reaching, just offering a smile. "I'm Simone," she said, "and here I get to play and listen. Do you like drawing?" Layla nodded. "We've got markers that smell like fruit," Dr. Harris confided, "but only the good ones. No stinky banana." Layla's mouth twitched. "I'll be in the next room," I told Layla. "I'll hear you if you need me." Dr. Harris led her through a second door into a room with a blue rug and a low table. The light was soft, the windows high. On one wall, a sand tray with tiny figures. On another, shelves of puppets. I stood in the doorway long enough to watch Layla choose the teddy bear puppet and tuck it under her arm like a teammate. "Mr. Carter?" Dr. Harris said gently. "We can talk in my office while Layla and my assistant, Ms. Keisha, get started. I'll join them in 10 minutes. I followed her across the hall. Her office was all calm wood and diplomas, a ficus plant thriving like it believed in second chances. I handed over Dr. Patel's report, the photos, and the petition Walter was filing. I told her the rest. Not the way I told Walter, with the chain of events linked and labeled, but the way a grandfather talks about the little girl who made him remember he still has fists. Dr. Harris listened without interrupting, pen quiet on her legal pad except to note dates. When I finished, she asked 3 questions that told me she'd heard everything between my words. "Has Layla ever been afraid of haircuts before? Does she startle at loud voices? Who's her safe person beside you?" "She loved her braids," I said. "She used to sit still for hours while Angela braided. Lately she started flinching when Angela touched her head. Loud voices make her fold into herself like a bird in a storm. Safe person? Used to be her daddy. Now she checks his eyes first. I think it's me." "You think right," Dr. Harris said, not unkindly. "I'm going to assess for acute stress response and signs of coercive control in the home. If Layla's comfortable, I'll use play to let her show me the story. I won't push. I'll also screen for sleep disturbance and shame-based language. The eyelashes comment," she paused, mouth hard for a second, "is not discipline. It's intimidation." I swallowed. What happens next? "I'll write an initial report within 48 hours, a more complete one within a week. I can appear in court if needed. In the meantime, you keep her world small and predictable. Routine is medicine. She should know what's for breakfast before the plate hits the table." I almost smiled. She's got me for that. We crossed back to the playroom together. Keisha, a young woman with box braids and a patience that smelled like cocoa butter, sat on the floor with Layla, who was drawing 2 stick figures, one tall with glasses me, one small with a round head her. Off to the side, a third figure with a black scribble where hair should be. "Can you tell me about your picture?" Dr. Harris asked, taking a seat on the rug, not too close. "That's me," Layla said, pointing to the round head. "That's Grandpa. That's Mommy when she's mad." "What happens when Mommy is mad?" Dr. Harris's voice barely moved the air. "She says ugly words," Layla answered, eyes on the paper. "She says I'm dirty and ugly." "What else?" Dr. Harris asked, still watching the crayons, not Layla's face. "If I cry, she says she will cut more things, so I stop being Fia." Layla's hand hesitated, then drew eyelashes around the third figure's eyes and crossed them out. She didn't look up to see me flinch. "Do you feel safe with Grandpa?" Dr. Harris asked after a minute. Layla nodded, the kind of nod that's also a please don't make me say it out loud. "Thank you, Layla," Dr. Harris said. "You're very brave." While Keisha pulled out the fruit-scented markers, cherry, watermelon, grape, Dr. Harris stepped into the hall with me. "I'll include this content in my initial report," she said quietly. "There's clear evidence of verbal degradation and threats. I also want to be honest. We need to consider mandated reporting. The shaving and threats meet the threshold for contacting DCFS. That doesn't mean they will remove Layla today. It means there will be documentation and possibly a safety plan. Your emergency custody petition dovetails with that." I nodded, throat tight. I've seen systems help and hurt. Both truths can stand in the same room. "Do it," I said. "Whatever protects her." Back in the waiting room, Layla emerged holding a coloring page of a sunflower with a bald center and petals bright as canaries. "It's me," she said, almost shy. "Dr. Simone says sunflowers follow the sun." "That's right," Dr. Harris said, smiling. "And you've got a son right at home." Layla looked up at me. I didn't trust my voice, so I squeezed her hand twice, our signal, and she squeezed back. At the desk, I scheduled 2 more sessions that week. Dr. Harris handed me a sheet. Trauma-safe home routine. It read simple as gospel, predictable meals, no raised voices, lights low at bedtime, offer choices, praise truth-telling, never force hair covering. At the bottom she wrote in blue ink, "Mr. Carter, your steadiness is her medicine." We had just stepped into the hallway when my phone lit up Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. It pinged again, Angela. Another again, unknown. I answered that one, old habit of mine. Trouble often masks itself as polite. "Mr. Carter?" A clipped male voice. "This is Officer Delgado with CPD. We received a call from a Ms. Angela Whitfield reporting that her child has been taken by you without permission. We'd like to resolve this peacefully." I felt Layla grip my hand. "Officer," I said, keeping my tone respectful, practiced, unafraid. "I'm in Hyde Park with my granddaughter at a medical appointment. I have photographs of injuries, a pediatrician's report, and I'm filing for emergency custody today with counsel. If you need to talk, my attorney's number is—" I read Walter's cell from memory. "I will meet you at my apartment in 1 hour." "Understood," the officer said, the stiffness easing a notch. "We'll await your counsel's call." I hung up and crouched to Layla's height. "We're going home," I said. "Some officers might stop by to check. They're just making sure you're okay. You'll stay in your room and draw me another sunflower." She searched my face. "They won't make me go." "Not today," I said, because that much I could promise. We drove back down King Drive, with the day sharpening into noon. The Buick's AC sputtered like an old preacher but held. At my building, Mr. Jefferson was sweeping his stoop like the neighborhood was his living room. "Need me?" he asked, as if he'd been waiting. "Yep," I said. "As witness, not warrior." He nodded, tucked the broom aside, and followed us up. Walter arrived 5 minutes before the knock. He laid a slim stack of papers on my table like a chess move. "Filed," he said. "Judge will see it by end of day. Temporary orders can be granted ex parte if the affidavit is strong. Ours is very strong." The knock came, polite, 2 beats. I opened the door to 2 officers, Delgado, 40s and professional, Martinez, younger and watchful. Angela and Marcus stood 10 feet back on the landing. Angela's lipstick perfect, eyes fever bright. Marcus looking like a man who hadn't slept inside his own head for days. "Mr. Carter," Delgado said, "we're responding to a custody concern. May we speak inside?" "You may speak with my attorney present," I said, opening the door wider. "This is Walter Pierce, and this is Mr. Jefferson, witness to yesterday's events." "I saw that little girl with her head shaved clean and shaking like a leaf," Mr. Jefferson said, Sunday voice steady. "That's what I saw." Delgado's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. "May we see the child, just to confirm well-being?" "You may not question her without counsel," Walter interjected, "but you may visually confirm safety from the doorway." I led them to the hall outside Layla's room. She sat cross-legged on the blue rug we bought yesterday, drawing a sunflower with extra petals, the bear propped beside her like a foreman supervising a job well done. She looked up, saw the uniforms, and flicked to me. 2 squeezes. I gave them back. "She appears safe," Martinez said quietly. Walter handed over Dr. Patel's report and 3 glossy photographs. Medical documentation of razor abrasion. Petition for emergency custody filed this morning. Psychologist evaluation in progress, with mandated report forthcoming. Delgado paged through quickly, then lifted his chin toward the hall. Ms. Whitfield, Mr. Carter has provided documentation. This appears to be a civil matter currently before the court. We recommend you await the judge's decision. Angela's face went tight as piano wire. You're just letting him keep her? We're advising you not to escalate, Delgado said evenly, and to make your case in family court. Marcus's eyes met mine then. No swagger, no deflection. Just a son staring at a father who'd done what he couldn't. I held his gaze a heartbeat longer than comfortable, then looked away. Love doesn't always feel like a hug. Sometimes it feels like a locked door. After the officers left, the apartment exhaled. Walter sat, loosened his tie, and looked more like the man who used to grill with me behind the church than the barrister who had just held the line. You okay? He asked. I nodded. My hands told on me, by shaking anyway. First hearing could be in 72 hours, he said. Between now and then, routine. Dr. Harris's plan. Keep visitors minimal. No unsupervised contact. If Marcus calls alone and wants to visit under your roof, we can talk about it. Angela. Not yet. Layla padded into the kitchen with her sunflower. She handed it to me, cheeks shy. Around the bald center she'd written, in careful 6-year-old letters, I am son. I bent and kissed the paper like it was a relic. Yes, you are. That night, we ate baked chicken and green beans because routine is medicine and my oven still knows my hands. We washed dishes together, her on a stool, me beside her, until the plates squeaked clean. We read 2 stories, one silly, one brave. When I turned out the light, she didn't ask about police or punishment. She asked, do sunflowers sleep? They turned their faces to the moon, I said, and wait for morning. She smiled, the kind of tired smile that means a child is already halfway to safe, and rolled onto her side. I sat in the hall again, back against the wall, thinking of blue rugs and yellow walls and judges with decisions like hammers. In the living room, Walter's paperwork glowed under the lamp, each page a stepping stone over a river I hadn't planned to cross at this age. I watched the shadow line creep across the floor and thought of Rosa's voice, of Sam Cooke on the radio, of Mr. Jefferson's broom leaned ready, of Auntie B's pocketbook always near the door. Community is how we survive long storms. Steadiness is how we keep a child dry in the middle of them. And somewhere past midnight, with the building settled and the streetlights humming, I let myself sleep for the first time in days. One ear open, both feet pointed toward court. Morning came like a clean page. I brewed coffee, warmed milk for Layla, and set out oatmeal with brown sugar because Dr. Harris's sheet said, predictable meals. Layla patted in wearing the navy t-shirt that hung like a dress and stared at the bowls as if the order of them mattered. It did. I slid the sugar closer, let her sprinkle it herself. Little choices add up to a girl, remembering her life belongs to her. Halfway through breakfast my phone buzzed. Walter, judge assigned. Ex-part review today. Hearing set for Wednesday, 9 a.m. I'll come by with sworn statements for Bernice and Jefferson. I felt my shoulders drop. It wasn't victory, but it was a track to run on. Layla looked at me over her spoon. Is it the police? No, I said. It's the helper who wears a suit. She nodded like that made sense and finished her oatmeal. Neat for once. When your world's been chopped into pieces, neat matters. At 10, another call, Dr. Harris. Mr. Carter, I wanted you to know I filed the mandated report with DCFS this morning. A caseworker may contact you for a safety check. My initial note is ready, and I can email a copy to your attorney. Thank you, I said, grateful and tired in the same breath. We built our day like a low wall, short bricks that didn't wobble. We watered the pothose plant on the windowsill and named it Bernard for no good reason, but the smile it put on Layla's face. We read the snowy day even though it was June because Peter's red suit makes everything feel safe. I put a line of painter's tape on the living room floor where the rug ends and told Layla, this is our parade route. You can walk it whenever your belly feels fluttery. She marched it with solemn dignity, bear tucked under her arm, 3 laps, then 4. Just after lunch, there was a knock the building recognizes, firm, even, not the knuckle drumming of a cousin. I opened the door to a woman in her 40s, with a laminated badge and eyes that said she'd seen rooms worse than mine. "Mr. Carter? I'm Miss Coleman with DCFS. May I come in?" "You may," I said, standing aside. "This is my granddaughter, Layla." Layla froze behind my thigh, then peeked, then hid again. The bear peeked too. "I won't be long," Miss Coleman said, lowering herself to the arm of a chair to make the room smaller, safer. "I'd like to see where Layla sleeps, check the kitchen, ask a few questions. No one's in trouble. We're making a safety plan." "Kitchen's through there," I said. "Her room is this way." I let Layla lead, which she did with a bravery so small and bright it made my throat work. Miss Coleman noted the fresh sheets, the nightlight, the poster of Jackie Robinson. She checked the fridge, eggs, milk, chicken, apples, like a mother on autopilot. At the table, she turned to Layla and asked, "Can I talk to you a minute? Grandpa can stay." Layla nodded without looking up from the crayon she was rolling between her fingers. "Do you feel safe here?" Ms. Coleman asked. Layla nodded. "Do you want to stay here for now?" Another nod. Miss Coleman glanced at me. "We'll document that preference. At 6, it's weighed alongside other factors. It helps." She folded her hands, grounded. "Here's what happens next. I'll file a safety plan that supports your emergency custody petition. It will recommend supervised contact only, no physical discipline, and continued treatment with Dr. Harris. I'll also include the pediatrician's findings and your witness statements when your attorney forwards them." "Thank you," I said. 2 words for a woman carrying more weight than her shoulders admitted. When she left, Layla followed her to the door and whispered, "Do you have sunflowers at your office?" Miss Coleman smiled. "I don't, but I like knowing you do." She'd barely cleared the stoop when another knock came. This one the careful tap of my sister, who always enters like a prayer. Auntie B swept in with a casserole that could feed the bull's bench and a spiral notebook. "I wrote it down," she said, tapping the cover. "Everything I saw and heard. No embellishing. The truth can stand up on its own." Walter arrived 20 minutes later, tie loosened, fountain pen gleaming like a well-kept trumpet. He took Auntie B's notebook, asked 3 clarifying questions, then had her sign his typed statement. Mr. Jefferson came up from his unit with his broom and his best church shoes, sat at my table, offered the plain details like a man laying bricks, plumb, level, true, then scrawled his signature with a hand that shook only at the edges. "All right," Walter said softly, collecting pages into tidy stacks. "These are good. The judge will appreciate that neither of you used adjectives. Just facts." "Facts were ugly enough," Auntie B murmured. Layla presented each of them with a sticker when they'd finished. "Brave people get stars," she declared. Mr. Jefferson put his on the brim of his cap. Auntie B stuck hers right on her scarf. "I feel official," she said, and Layla giggled. While Walter packed up, my phone buzzed. "Marcus." I let it go, then thought better and called back. "You can come at 4, I said before he spoke. "Alone. 1 hour. In the living room. I'll be present. No Angela." The silence on the line was raw. "Thank you, Pop," he said at last. I'll be there." After I hung up, I pasted a line of blue tape, like it could make a plan out of feelings. Dr. Harris's sheet didn't include what to do when the man you raised returns to the room where you're raising his child. So I wrote my own on a sticky note and stuck it to the wall where I could see it. Warm welcome. Clear rules. Short visit. Praise truth. No fixes. At 3:58, I opened the door before he could knock. Marcus stood there with a grocery bag and the eyes of a boy who has been caught by what he did not do. He looked smaller without his party shirt, older without his defenses. "Hey, old man," he said, and if the joke was a bridge, I walked halfway onto it. "Come in," I said. "Shoes off. We're keeping the floors soft." That was not in any handbook. It was how I keep holy ground. Layla hovered by the couch, the bear tucked tight. When Marcus saw her, his face lit with a light I had almost forgotten on him. He knelt, palms open like a man receiving communion. "Hey, Peanut," he whispered. "Daddy loves you." Layla took 1 step, halted, looked at me. I gave her our 2 squeezes, twice, "I see you." I'm here, and she closed the space. Marcus didn't grab. He let her climb into his lap at her pace. He held her like she was glass, and something stronger than glass. The bag on the floor tipped, and out slid a copy of Last Stop on Market Street, a box of glitter crayons, and a small head wrap printed with sunflowers. I thought maybe, he began, then stopped, pulling the wrap back. Only if you want, he said to Layla. You don't have to cover anything you don't want to. She touched it, thoughtful. It's pretty, she said, and set it beside the bear like a friend waiting its turn. He read the book, voice steadying by the second page, and Layla added glitter to the bus tires with great seriousness. I sat in the armchair and watched the lines of fear in her back loosen, like stitches being gently cut. Halfway through, Marcus faltered. Peanut, he said, eyes damp. I'm sorry I didn't come when you screamed. The room held that sentence like a choir holds a long note. Layla leaned into him. Don't let Mommy cut again, she whispered. I won't, he said, and for once he didn't look at me to see if I believed him. I let them have the hour. At 5 on the dot, I stood. Time, I said gently. Marcus nodded, kissed Layla's forehead, and stood. At the door, he turned to me. She needs both of us, he said. She needs safety. I answered. Be that or be gone. That's the line. He didn't argue. He looked at the blue tape, then at me, and I watched the idea of a line turn into something he could maybe step across. After he left, Layla carried the sunflower wrap to her room and laid it over the foot of the bed, like a promise kept for later. We ate Auntie B's casserole, because the saints feed you when words get thin. We washed the glitter off our fingers, and later, off the bathroom sink, laughing when it kept reappearing like stubborn joy. Just before bedtime, a text from an unknown number buzzed my phone, a photograph of Angela's manicured hand holding a pair of clippers. Grow up, Ray. Hair grows. I stared at it long enough to feel my pulse rise, then did the opposite of what she wanted. Took a slow breath, screenshotted, forwarded to Walter, and set my phone face down. Layla does not learn steadiness from a grandfather scrolling anger at midnight. We did our ritual. Lotion on shins, shea on scalp, 2 stories, 2 squeezes. Grandpa, she asked as the lamp threw its small gold circle on the wall. Will the judge listen to me? I think so, I said. But even if the judge doesn't hear your voice with ears, he'll feel it in the papers. Dr. Simone and Mr. Walter are very loud on paper. She smiled at that, a lawyer joke in a 6-year-old mouth, and rolled toward the wall, the bear tucked under her chin. Night, son, I whispered, and left the door open an inch. In the living room, I lined everything up. Folder with Dr. Patel's report, Walter's packet of affidavits, Dr. Harris's initial note, Miss Coleman's visit card, the photographs printed twice, even the sunflower drawing with I am son, because a judge ought to remember who this is about. I walked the blue tape once, then again, then peeled it up, only to lay it down straighter, a little wider, with a small branch into the hallway toward Layla's room. Lines aren't cages, they're paths. Wednesday at 9 was coming. Between now and then we would eat our meals at the same time, and fold the same towels the same way, and listen to the same song after dinner. Sam Cooke reminding us a change is gonna come. We would hold steady, so the ground could stop shaking long enough for a little girl to plant her feet. Before I went to bed, I texted Marcus, "Thank you for coming alone. Next time, same rules. Bring nothing sharp. Bring your honesty." He wrote back 2 words I didn't expect, but didn't argue with, "Yes, sir." I turned off the lamp and told the room, Rose's picture, and whatever angels loiter on South Prairie Avenue. We have enough to make it to Wednesday. Then I laid down with my feet pointed toward morning and slept like a man who had drawn his lines and meant them. Tuesday tasted like pencils and paperwork. I woke before the sun, ironed my only gray suit until the crease in the pants felt like a decision, and set oatmeal to simmer because the body learned safety spoon by spoon. Layla patted and rubbing her eyes, the sunflower wrap slung over one shoulder like a sash. She'd slept straight through. No whimpers. No begging the dark to be kind. That alone was a hymn. Today we practice, I told her, so tomorrow goes smooth. For the judge, she asked, climbing onto her chair. For the judge, I said, sliding the brown sugar across the table. And for us. By 8:15, my phone chimed with an email from Walter, temp order granted. In all caps like a trumpet. The judge had reviewed the filings ex parte late yesterday. The order named me temporary physical custodian pending the Wednesday hearing, ordered no unsupervised contact, permitted supervised visits with Marcus at my residence, and directed both parents to participate in mental health evaluation and parenting education. Angela's name sat cold on that line like ice on a wire. I printed the order and slid it into the front of my folder. "What's that?" Layla asked. "A paper that says you sleep here," I said. She nodded, visibly lighter, as if a door inside her had been braced with wood from the courthouse. We drove to Hyde Park for our second session with Dr. Harris. On the way, Layla hummed under her breath, an off-key little thing that sounded like a child piecing herself back together, one note at a time. I didn't correct it. I joined in. Dr. Harris met us with the same steady smile. "Sunflower Queen," she greeted Layla. "Ready to play round 2? Layla lifted her chin. "I brought my wrap," she said. "But I don't have to wear it. I can just hold it." "Power is choice," Dr. Harris said. She nodded toward the blue rug. "Let's make a story today. You pick the characters." Layla went to the sand tray like she'd been living with it for years. She chose a small brown girl, a tall man with tiny glasses, a woman with painted eyes, and a silver rectangle I realized was a toy hair clipper. My stomach tensed. Dr. Harris said nothing. She pushed the sand closer. Layla buried the clippers under a little hill. "They go away," she said. "What happens when they go away?" Dr. Harris asked. "The girl can sleep," Layla answered matter of fact. "And she can draw sun." I stood in the doorway, hands in my pockets, pretending to be part of the door frame, while I learned something about courage from someone who still counts by fingers. After a while, Dr. Harris brought out puppets. Layla put the teddy bear puppet on my hand and the rabbit on hers. She made the rabbit whisper to the bear, "If I cry, Mommy cuts more." The bear answered, "Crying is allowed in this house." Dr. Harris shot me a quick glance, the kind that says good. Keep that line. Then she slid a worksheet over to Layla with 5 little faces. Scared, sad, mad, happy, brave. "Can you circle how you feel when you think about going back to Mommy's house?" Layla circled scared and, after a long look at my shoes, mad. "What about here?" Dr. Harris asked. Layla circled brave and happy, then looked up like she'd confessed a secret she wanted to be true. In the hall afterward, Dr. Harris tapped her pad. "Her language today shows insight and agency," she said. "I can testify to acute stress symptoms in Mom's presence and a positive response to your home stability. I'll attach the temporary order to my report. It helps." She asked this morning if the judge can hear children. I said, "He can," Dr. Harris replied. "But at 6, it's usually through a child representative or a brief in-camera conversation. We won't force direct testimony. However," she raised a finger, "we can practice telling the truth in simple sentences. That way, if anyone asks, she won't freeze." She handed me a half sheet with 6 kid-sized lines. I felt scared when. I want to stay where. I sleep better at. I don't want. I like it when. I am not ugly. My throat tightened on that last one. "Practice once today," Dr. Harris said. "Then let her go play. No drilling. Truth doesn't need a drill sergeant. It needs a safe porch." Back home, Miss Coleman from DCFS knocked for a quick follow-up. She reviewed the temporary order, looked at Layla's sunflower wrap, and smiled at the parade tape still on my floor. "This place looks like a plan," she said. "I'll update the safety plan to reflect the court's order and Dr. Harris's schedule. One more thing. Keep the Clippers photo from Angela on your phone and send it to your attorney. It demonstrates minimization." "I sent it last night," I said. "Good," she replied. "And sir, don't engage with her messages. Judges like grown-ups." "Understood." After she left, I made grilled cheese and tomato soup, the lunch that knows how to hug from the inside. Layla dipped triangles like a scientist testing hypotheses and announced, "This is better than pancakes." I pretended to be offended until she laughed big enough that soup almost came out her nose. We cleaned it with too many napkins and the kind of giggles that mop up days. At 2, Walter called. "I've prepped exhibits," he said, "but I want to prep you. Can I come by in an hour?" He didn't need to ask. He has a key to my house that he never uses. When he arrived, he set his briefcase down like he was laying out communion. "We'll keep you on message," he said, flipping open a legal pad. "Judges hate wandering. Facts, not adjectives. I'll ask you questions first, then Angela's counsel will cross." He looked up. "They'll try to paint you as controlling, as trying to replace the mother." "I am trying to replace danger," I said. "Good line," he nodded. "But save lines for me. To the judge, keep it plain. We'll open with Dr. Patel's report and Dr. Harris's note. We'll submit the temporary order and Ms. Coleman's safety plan. Then your photos and the witnesses' affidavits. If the judge invites Ms. Harris to speak, we'll rest after her." He handed me a one-page outline titled Raymond Carter, Direct Exam. The bullet points were clean and spare. Relationship to minor, grandfather, primary caregiver since Saturday. Incident discovery, date, time, pink cap, visible scalp injuries. Child statements, threats about eyelashes, ugly girls cry. Father's presence and response, no intervention, later supervised visit. Actions taken, pediatrician, psychologist, mandated report, DCFS safety plan. Home stability, room prepared, routine. Sleep improved, child preference. Relief requested, temporary custody. Supervised visits, parental treatment. We practiced out loud. Layla painting watercolors at the table within earshot. When I stumbled into anger, Walter lifted a finger and I stepped back into playing. When I drifted into storytelling, he steered me to facts. "You'll want to win with righteousness," he said, "but judges decide with paper and calm." We paused when Layla came over with her painting. A big yellow circle with fat petals and, in the middle, a brown dot with 2 small eyes. "This one's for the judge," she said seriously. Walter crouched. "Judges like pictures," he said, "but this one might be best for Grandpa's fridge, so he remembers what he's doing." He looked at me, and it was a benediction. At 4, the buzzer rang. Marcus again, on time, alone, eyes cleaner than yesterday. I let him in. He carried no bag this time, only a paperback with dog-eared corners, Amazing Grace by Mary Hoffman. He sat on the floor and read about a little black girl who wanted to play Peter Pan because she knew stories belonged to whoever shows up brave. When he finished, he closed the book and said to Layla, "You can be anything, Peanut, even brave on a Tuesday." She smiled, then did something new. She reached up and touched his cheek like she was checking that softness still lived there. "Don't let Mommy be mean," she whispered. "I won't," he said, meeting my eyes. He didn't flinch. "And if she is, I'll leave. I've started therapy, Pop. I got an intake with a men's group tomorrow evening." He handed me a card from Southside Fathers, support program and parenting classes. It had a date and time already written in. My chest eased a notch I hadn't allowed all week. "Good," I said simply. "Don't do it for a judge. Do it for who you should have been last week." "I know," he said. It looked like he did. At 5, Walter stood to go. "Be at the courthouse at 8:15, he told me. "Room 1306. I'll meet you outside the elevators." He pointed to my folder. "Bring that. Wear that suit. Speak slow. Look at the judge. Don't look at Angela unless you have to." After they left, the apartment held the echo of quiet that comes after a room has done honest work. Layla and I ate baked fish and rice. We folded towels with the straight edges on the outside like Rosa taught me. Then we sat at the table and did truth practice from Dr. Harris's sheet. I read the lines. Layla filled the blanks. No pressure. No grades. Just facts in little hands. I felt scared when Mommy cut my hair with Daddy's machine and said ugly girls cry. I want to stay where I sleep and draw and don't wear a hat. I sleep better at Grandpa's house. I don't want clippers near me. I like it when Daddy reads and Grandpa cooks soup. I am not ugly even without hair, she said slower, like tasting each word. We stopped there. It was enough. bath lotion, shea, 2 stories, 2 squeezes. Before I turned out the light, Layla said, "Can I wear the sunflower wrap tomorrow?" She fingered its edge. Not to hide. To be fancy. To be fancy, I agreed. It's your crown, not your cover. She slept. I stayed up and polished my shoes, even though nobody stares at old men's shoes in family court. I ironed her little yellow dress, a soft cotton thing with pockets big enough for Brave. I wrote Rosa a note on the back of an old church program and tucked it behind her photo. We're doing right. Then I stood in the doorway of Layla's room and listened to her breathe, steady as a metronome. My phone lit on the counter. A text from an unknown number again, but this time it was Marcus forwarding a screenshot. Angela has to appear for emergency status tomorrow. Her lawyer told her to keep distance. Beneath it, Marcus wrote, "I'll sit on your side of the room, Pop. If she looks at Layla, I'll look at the judge." I typed back, "Look at your child, then the judge. Same order for the rest of your life." At midnight, I set 2 alarm clocks because old habits respect sleep. I laid the papers in my briefcase in order of battle. Temporary order, Dr. Patel, Dr. Harris, Ms. Coleman, affidavits, photos. On top, the sunflower painting. Then I turned off the lights and told the room what I needed to believe. Tomorrow is for truth. Tonight is for rest. And for the first time since Saturday, I fell asleep without keeping watch. Not because the wolves were gone, but because the fence was up and the morning had a name. I woke before the alarm, already dressed in my mind, gray suit, polished shoes. Ty Rosa once said made my shoulders look trustworthy. Layla patted out rubbing sleep from her eyes. The sunflower head wrap, folded in her hands like a handkerchief for courage. "You ready, sunshine?" I asked. "To be fancy," she said, and I tied the wrap slow so it looked like a crown and not a cover, just like she'd asked. Yellow dress, little white sandals, and the bear tucked under her arm, an entourage of one. We ate oatmeal because routine is the road you drive on when the day's a cliff. Then we rode the Green Line downtown, the city sliding past in brick and glass. Layla counted stops on her fingers and pressed her nose to the window to find the river. I kept my briefcase on my lap with documents packed like a choir, each voice ready for its measure. Cook County Juvenile/Family Court looks like it's seen every kind of weather people make for each other. The security guard smiled at Layla and winked at her sunflower wrap. We took the elevator to the 13th floor, room 1306, and there was Walter, already leaning on the wall by the double doors, tie calm, eyes taking the temperature of the hallway like a man who can predict storms. "Morning, Mr. Carter," he said. "Sunflower Queen." He crouched to Layla's height. "There's a children's room next door where Miss Keisha, Dr. Harris's assistant, will sit with you. No one asks you questions today, okay?" Layla looked at me. 2 squeezes. I gave them back. Auntie B arrived with a folder and lipstick-like armor. Mr. Jefferson with his hat in both hands, and those Sunday shoes shined. Dr. Harris came last, steady as always, locks pinned as if even her hair knows court is a place for pins. Ms. Coleman from DCFS nodded to us in the hallway, clipboard tucked under her arm like a shield. Then Marcus stepped off the elevator. He wore the only suit he owns, shoulders squared to carry what he hadn't, and behind him, 10 paces, eyes hot, Angela, in a navy sheet dress and courtroom heels, her lawyer at her elbow. She took one look at Layla and opened her mouth. Marcus laid a hand on her forearm. "Don't," he whispered, small but firm. She closed it again and stared straight ahead. Inside, the courtroom was cooler than the hall. The judge, Honorable Marcia Reynolds, silver hair, dark eyes, voice like a metronome, took the bench at 9 sharp. The clerk called our case. Everyone stood. I felt my pulse in my palms and reminded myself how to breathe. Walter began. "Good morning, Your Honor. Walter Pierce for Mr. Raymond Carter, the minor child's paternal grandfather." He laid out our stack. The temporary order, Dr. Patel's report, Dr. Harris's initial evaluation, Ms. Coleman's safety plan, the affidavits from Auntie B and Mr. Jefferson, the photographs. He let the paper do most of the talking, like he promised. Angela's attorney, a sharp-jawed man who looked fresh out of law school but probably wasn't, stood. "Good morning, Judge." Thomas Hall for Ms. Angela Whitfield, the child's mother. We contest the characterization of events. My client cut her daughter's hair in a fit of frustration. It was a single, isolated lapse in judgment, not a pattern of abuse. The child was not physically injured. Dr. Patel notes only superficial abrasions. Ms. Whitfield has already engaged a therapist and is prepared to begin parenting classes. We ask that the child be returned home with appropriate services. Judge Reynolds looked over her glasses. Mr. Hall, we'll get to you. Mr. Pierce, your witness. Walter called me first. I swore in, right hand raised, then sat. The chair felt high and too small, the way chairs do when you're being measured. Walter's questions were exactly the ones we'd practiced. Mr. Carter, when did you learn your granddaughter's head had been shaved? Saturday, at my son's birthday party. How did you learn it? I lifted her pink cap and saw her scalp. It had razor nicks and irritation. What did the child say to you? She said her mother told her ugly girls cry a lot, and that if she told anyone, her mother would cut her eyelashes. I said the words plain. The judge's pen paused. Walter moved to the next brick and the next. What I did after, pediatrician, psychologist, DCFS, how Layla had slept since. What she asked me in the dark, do I have to go home today? How I answered, not today. He asked about Marcus's visit. It was supervised, cordial, within the court's temporary order. He read to her. He apologized for not coming when she cried. Relief requested? Walter asked finally. That Layla remain with me temporarily. That visits with both parents be supervised and structured. That both parents complete counseling and parenting classes. And that no one cuts the child's hair, or threatens to, without explicit court permission. Mr. Hall stood for cross. He tried to slip the story into a shape that wasn't ours. Mr. Carter, you don't like Ms. Whitfield, do you? I dislike what she did to my granddaughter. My feelings about her are irrelevant. Isn't it true you're trying to replace the child's mother? I'm trying to replace danger. The mother can be part of safety when she learns how. Do you believe in corporal punishment, Mr. Carter? No, ever. No, not even a swat. No, he blinked, as if waiting for the wobble I didn't give him. No further questions. Walter called Dr. Patel by report only. The judge read, nodded once. Then Dr. Harris took the stand, took the oath, and transformed the words we'd carried into clinical light. In my initial evaluation, she said, Layla presented with acute stress symptoms, startle response, sleep disturbance reported, themes of shame in play. She articulated fear of her mother's anger and of hair cutting as punishment. She showed relief and increased agency in her grandfather's home environment. I recommended continued therapy, strict routines, and importantly, no unsupervised contact with the mother until treatment demonstrates behavioral change. Mr. Hall tried to muddy. Doctor, isn't it true that hair cutting is sometimes cultural? Cultural practice is not the same as punitive humiliation, Dr. Harris said. Threatening to cut a 6-year-old's eyelashes as a control mechanism is not cultural in any context I recognize. Ms. Coleman was brief. DCFS supports the temporary safety plan. We are not recommending removal from Mr. Carter's home. Then Angela took the stand. Her lawyer asked a gentle question. Ms. Whitfield, can you tell the court what happened? She gripped the edges of the witness box like she was keeping herself from floating away. I was tired. She always cries when I do her hair. It was always a fight. I snapped. I shaved it. I thought it would be easier. I didn't mean to hurt her. Her voice broke, and for a second her eyes fell to something softer. I grew up in a strict house. This is what my mama did when we acted up. I thought. She swallowed. I thought it would fix it. Walter's cross was surgical. Ms. Whitfield, did you tell Layla ugly girls cry? I might have said something like that. Did you threaten to cut her eyelashes? Silence stretched. I said it. I didn't mean it. Did you tell her not to tell anyone? I told her not to be dramatic. Do you understand that these statements cause trauma independent of any haircut? Angela's jaw clenched. I'm in therapy, she said, as if that settled a weight she'd put on a child. Walter nodded once, then sat. Marcus surprised me by asking to speak. The judge allowed it. He didn't take the witness stand, just stood at counsel table, hands open. Your Honor, I failed my daughter. I heard her cry and I didn't come. I believed it was just hair. It wasn't. I'm in a Father's group now and starting individual therapy. I want to do better. I want Layla safe. I support supervised visits and whatever the court orders. He looked at the carpet when he finished, like a man not ready for anyone's eyes, not even his own. The judge sat back, silent long enough to make us all breathe wrong, then leaned to the microphone. Thank you. Here's what we're going to do. She spoke in sentences that sounded like beams set into place. Temporary physical custody remains with Mr. Carter. Visitation for the father to continue supervised by Mr. Carter at his home or an approved center. Visitation for the mother to occur at a neutral supervised visitation center, not in Mr. Carter's home, twice weekly to begin, increasing only upon recommendation of the child's therapist. Angela's lawyer started to rise. The judge's hand flicked, gentle and unignorable. Ms. Whitfield will enroll in individual therapy and parenting classes and provide proof of attendance within 14 days. Mr. Marcus Carter will continue Father's group and therapy. Proof within 14 days. No haircuts or hair alterations of the child by any party without court permission. No derogatory language toward or about the child. All communication between adults will be through a monitored co-parenting app. No direct texting except for emergencies. The child will continue therapy with Dr. Harris. DCFS to maintain safety oversight. Status in 30 days. Her gavel didn't thump. It didn't have to. The words closed like a door on fire. Court adjourned. The room exhaled, shuffling paper and sighs. Angela stared at the table, jaw working. Marcus wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand and didn't hide it. Walter squeezed my shoulder once, the way men who have seen each other through bad weather do. In the hallway, Keisha returned Layla, who walked straight to me and slid her small hand into mine. Is it over? She asked. For today, I said. And you were the fanciest one there. We rode the elevator down with Auntie B's perfume, making the corners feel like home. Outside, the sky had turned the kind of blue that looks scrubbed. Ice cream? I asked. 2 scoops, Layla bargained, and I pretended to consider massive jurisprudence before nodding. Chocolate and strawberry for her, butter pecan for me, because old men are allowed their old men flavors. We ate on a bench by the river. Layla dripped pink down her wrist and laughed when I caught it with a napkin. A tour boat chugged by full of strangers, and I thought how many stories are floating past us at any minute. Some shattered, some mended, some still being argued at wooden tables on the 13th floor. Back home, I downloaded the co-parenting app the judge ordered and sent a first message to both parents. Per court order, Layla will be available for supervised visits Saturday at 10 a.m., Dad, and Sunday at 2 p.m., Mom. At the center on 55th, confirm. Marcus replied confirmed in 2 minutes. Angela's bubble sat gray for a long time before received appeared. I took a picture of the screen for Walter and then put the phone face down. We kept the evening small. Fish sticks. Peas. 1 story about a brave rabbit. Lotion, Shea, 2 squeezes. Does the judge like sunflowers? Layla asked, fighting a yawn. I think she likes truth, I said, but sunflowers help her see it. She smiled, rolled toward the wall, and slept with the wrap at the foot of the bed, not on her head. In the kitchen, I put the order and every paper back in my briefcase, then tucked the sunflower painting under a magnet on the fridge. Rose's picture watched me from the dresser with that soft, "Keep going," she never had to say out loud. I washed the courthouse out of my hands with lemon soap and stood in the quiet of the apartment that had grown just big enough for 2 hearts. Today hadn't fixed everything. It had fixed the next 30 days, which in some wars is a victory you celebrate like a parade. I turned off the light and let the dark know where I stood. We had a plan, a paper fence, and a child sleeping hole. That would be enough to carry us into tomorrow, where the real work, slow, stubborn, steady, waited with its sleeves rolled up. The morning after court felt different in the bones, like the apartment itself stood up a little straighter. Paper fences do that. They don't stop every wolf, but they tell them where the line starts. Saturday arrived dressed like a promise. I cooked pancakes because Layla bargained hard with the judge for ice cream and with me for syrup. We ate slow. She wore the yellow dress again, not for fancy this time, but because it felt like courage in cotton. At 9:30, I texted Marcus through the court-ordered app. We're ready. Ring once, then wait. He thumbs up like a teenager and arrived at 9:58 exactly. Points for punctuality count when you're rebuilding a bridge. When I opened the door, he stood with his hands visible, the way men do when they want you to see they carry no weapons. "Morning, Pop," he said. "Morning, Peanut." Layla stepped out from behind me, bear under her arm, and did our 2 squeezes. I squeezed back and nodded toward the living room. "Shoes by the door," I said. "We're making holy ground." We'd set up what Dr. Harris called a visit map, a low table with 2 books, one silly, one brave, a basket of simple toys, and a kitchen timer. "Structure is kindness," she told me. "Everyone knows what's happening and when it ends." I set the timer for 50 minutes and sat at the dining table with my legal pad, close enough to supervise without hovering. Marcus kept it simple. He asked if she wanted to read Last Stop on Market Street again. She did. He asked if she wanted to color bus tires or people's shoes. She chose shoes, making them glitter gold, like the ones she imagined for church. At the 20-minute mark, he said, "Snack break," and they ate apple slices and peanut butter with deliberate dignity, the kind of snack parade that tells a child the world isn't rushing her. Halfway through, Layla whispered, "Daddy, don't let Mommy be mean." He didn't rush to fix it. He looked at her and said, "I won't." Then he looked at me and added, "And if she is, we leave." He said it like a sentence he had practiced in an empty car. Progress sometimes sounds like that. 5 minutes from the end, I made the agreed-upon sign, a raised hand, no words. Marcus nodded, closed the book, and said, "I'm proud of you for being brave, Peanut. I'll see you next Saturday." He didn't ask for more time, didn't bargain with feelings, didn't promise things he couldn't guarantee. He kissed her forehead with the care of a man handling something sacred, then stood and put his shoes on without looking lost. At the door, he turned to me. "Thank you," he said. I just nodded. Men don't always need ceremony when the doing has been done right. After he left, Layla sat quietly for a moment, as if calibrating. Then she drew a picture of a big bus with a small crown on the front. "For Daddy," she said, and I tucked it into my folder so I wouldn't forget to hand it over next week. Structure lives in little mercies. In the afternoon, we watered Bernard the pothose and argued about his secret last name. Layla decided it was Son, because every living thing in our apartment was inheriting that word one way or another. We napped. We listened to Sam cook. We stirred a pot of red beans like it could summon saints. Healing has its own chores. Sunday was a different beast, the center on 55th for Angela's first supervised visit. I'd called ahead, faxed the order like it was 1998, and confirmed our slot. 2 to 3 p.m., room C. The center smelled faintly of hand sanitizer and graham crackers. Posters on the walls said things like "Use your words" and "Feelings are welcome." The receptionist gave me a visitor badge and explained the rules again. Drop off in the lobby. Supervisor walks the child back. No gifts that hide messages. No whispering threats. All conversations recorded in notes. I listened like a man hearing storm sirens and evacuation routes at the same time. Angela arrived at 1:55, wearing the kind of smile that looks glued on. Her lawyer wasn't there. This wasn't that kind of room, but a staff supervisor named Miss Tate greeted us with a warm nod. She was a middle-aged black woman with salt and pepper curls and a voice that made you want to sit up straight without shrinking. "Layla," Miss Tate said gently, "you'll be with me. We'll play. If you need a break, you lift your hand like this." She demonstrated a little wobbly sun motion. "I'll walk you out." Layla's fingers tightened in my palm. 2 squeezes. I gave them back. "I'll be right out here," I told her, kneeling so we were level. No one can make you do what feels wrong. You can always ask to leave. She nodded, lifted her chin, and let Miss Tate lead her through the door marked Rooms AD. I sat in the waiting area and tried not to time the second hand. The brochure rack had pamphlets on co-parenting, trauma, child development, and anger management. I took one of each and pretended to read while I listened to the quiet hums and occasional bursts of laughter through the hallway. A door opened once. A toddler came out in tears. A father followed looking like a man trying to hold water in his hands. This building had a lot of weather inside it. At 2:37, Miss Tate stepped into the lobby and motioned me over. Not urgent, not nothing. She wanted to see you, she said calmly. Take 1 minute by the doorway. I moved toward room C. Through the observation window, I saw a table with a puzzle half done and a pile of crayons. Layla sat on the floor, knees hugged to her chest. Angela sat in a chair angled toward her, hands clenched together. When Layla saw me in the doorway, she stood and walked to the threshold, stopping where the tape line on the floor said to stop. You okay, sunshine? I asked. I needed air, she said, a small, true sentence. Miss Tate gave me air. You want to keep going or stop for today? I asked. She looked at Miss Tate, then at me. 10 more minutes, she said. Then, almost to herself, I can do 10. Miss Tate nodded approval at the choice. We'll count together, she told Layla, and the two of them went back in. I stayed where I was, watching the clock the way you watch winter turn to something else if you stare long enough. When the hour ended, Miss Tate brought Layla out and debriefed in the calm format of a person who knows papers change lives. Summary. Child was initially hesitant, requested doorway check-in at 2:35, returned for 10 minutes by choice. Mother was appropriate in language after redirection. One incident of minimization. It was just hair. Staff reminded mother of impact language. Mother acknowledged. Child engaged in drawing sunflowers. Declined physical contact. Stated she is not ready for hugs. Plan. Continue weekly. Mother to avoid just language. Child to choose activities. Angela hovered 6 feet away, eyes darting to me and back to Layla like she wanted to ask for a do-over she hadn't earned. Can I say goodbye? She asked Miss Tate. From here, came the answer. Angela knelt at the line. Bye, Layla, she said, and for once there was no sugar or spin, just a raw thread of human under all that polish. I'm sorry, she added small. Layla dipped her chin but didn't speak. Then she took my hand, and we went home. In the car, she stared out the window, quiet in a way that wasn't collapse but processing. Can we have spaghetti? She asked at last. Spaghetti is the food of still here. Yes, I said, with garlic bread that makes the neighbors jealous. She smiled with only half her mouth, and let the rest of the drive be mercifully ordinary. Back at the apartment, I wrote a brief note in the co-parenting app about the visit. Child completed full hour. 1 doorway check. No physical contact by child's choice. Next Sunday, 2 p.m. confirmed. I kept it sterile on purpose. Angela replied 2 minutes later. Thank you. I will avoid just language. See you next week. I didn't respond. The app keeps conversations narrow, so old patterns don't sneak through. Monday brought its follow-ups. Dr. Harris called with a quick check. How did Sunday go? I gave her Miss Tate's summary. That's a respectable first visit, she said. 10 minutes chosen is a lifetime at 6. She reminded me to keep Layla's world small for the next 48 hours. No extra visitors, no big outings. It takes the nervous system time to settle after even good stress, she said. So we stayed home, watered Bernard, and turned cardboard boxes into spaceships. We flew to the moon before dinner and came back in time to boil pasta. In the evening, Ms. Coleman from DCFS phoned. I read Miss Tate's notes, she said. Good start. We'll log it. Also, Mr. Carter, I want to acknowledge something. Not every grandparent can hold this line and also make room for repair. You're doing both. I swallowed and said thank you because men my age don't always have a drawer for compliments. Tuesday, Marcus sent a message through the app. Peanut left me a bust drawing. Can I pick it up Wednesday evening at the door only? I told him yes. 6 p.m. Door pickup only per order. He arrived, took the drawing like it was fragile mail, and didn't ask to come in. Tell her I'll put on my fridge, he said. And tell her I'm going to class tonight. I nodded and closed the door, a gesture that meant not no. It meant keep going, son. By midweek, the apartment's rhythm had settled into a new normal. Breakfast, play, reading, nap, therapy twice, phone quiet most hours. Layla started humming again, not constantly, but in the spaces where fear used to live. She took her head wrap off before dinner not because she had to, but because tomato sauce doesn't negotiate. At bath time, she used the plastic clippers of her toy barber kit on Bernard's drooping leaves and announced, "Only pretend." Bernard looked as fine as a plant can look with a fresh fake cut. That night, as I tucked her in, she asked, "Do we have to do the center forever?" "No," I said, "just for now, until the grown-ups' hearts learn the rules too." "Do you think Mommy's heart can learn?" she asked, full voice, no whisper. "I think hearts are slow students," I said, "but I've seen them pass the test." She thought about that a long time, then turned toward the wall and whispered, 10 minutes was a lot." I kissed her temple. "It was the whole ocean," I said and meant it. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Rose's picture, at the sunflower painting under the fridge magnet, at the blue line of painter's tape still tracing a path on my floor. Saturdays and centers, apples and forms, songs and courtrooms. It's a strange kind of life, the holding together and the letting go at the same time. But it's the life we had, and it was moving forward one well-measured step after another. Before I turned out the light, I wrote a note on my legal pad. This week, routine plus courage. Next week, more of the same. Then I set the pad down and slept like an old man who knows the difference between peace and quiet, and was grateful to have either. By Thursday morning, the apartment smelled like pancakes again, not because it was breakfast, but because Layla decided that Thursdays should smell like Saturdays. I let her pour the batter, though half ended up on the counter, and we laughed while cleaning. These small freedoms were medicine. After breakfast, I sat at the kitchen table with 3 piles, court documents, Miss Tate's supervision notes, and Dr. Harris's therapy summaries. My lawyer, Mr. Mason, had asked me to keep everything neat and dated. Judges trust paper trails more than tears, he'd said. So I wrote the date on each note, clipped them by week, and filed them in a binder Rosa would have been proud of. Organization was her religion, and I was learning it late in life. Layla brought me a crayon drawing of Bernard the plant wearing sunglasses. "Put it in your serious book, Grandpa," she said. I almost told her the binder was only for official papers, then stopped. Her drawing was as official as any affidavit. It testified to something courts couldn't measure, the return of joy. I slid it into a plastic sleeve. "It's official now," I told her. At noon, Marcus called through the app. "Peanut free for a short video call. 10 minutes, your supervision." I asked Layla. She hesitated, then nodded. We sat together on the couch, phone between us. Marcus appeared, still in his work shirt, paint speckles on his shoulders. "Hey, Peanut." "Hi, Daddy," she whispered. He showed her the fridge with her bust drawing taped to it, front and center. "Makes me smile every morning." She smiled back, shy but real. "Want to see my class notebook?" he asked. He held up pages filled with handwriting. "This is where I'm learning how to be a better dad." Layla tilted her head. "Do they give you stickers when you finish?" Marcus laughed softly. "Not yet, but I'm going to ask." 10 minutes passed quick. At the end he said, "I love you, Peanut." She looked at me for permission. I nodded. "Love you too, Daddy." She ended the call herself, proud of controlling the button. Later, Dr. Harris visited for an in-home session. She watched Layla line up dolls and whisper to them. "What's happening with the dolls?" she asked gently. "Mommy's telling them to be quiet," Layla said, placing one doll in the corner. "But this one has a shield." She held up another doll holding a spoon. "What's the shield for?" "So the words can't cut." Dr. Harris met my eyes. "This is progress," she mouthed. After the session, she told me privately. She's finding symbols for her feelings. That's a sign her brain is starting to process instead of just store fear. Friday morning, I received a call from Ms. Coleman at DCFS. "Mr. Carter, I'll be making a home visit this afternoon." Routine check, nothing to worry about. I tidied the apartment like Rosa was coming home. Layla helped, dusting the table with exaggerated seriousness. When Ms. Coleman arrived, she sat on the couch, notebook in hand, and asked Layla, "What's your favorite thing about staying here?" "My grandpa makes spaghetti better than restaurants," Layla said, "and he lets me keep an art alive." Ms. Coleman smiled. "Sounds like you're safe here." After she left, I sat heavy in my chair. Safe was a fragile word, too easily broken if papers moved the wrong way. Saturday came again. Marcus arrived for his second supervised visit. Same punctuality, same hands visible. This time Layla didn't hide behind me. She walked to the table herself, bear tucked under one arm. They read Where the Wild Things Are. Marcus did the monster voices so well Layla laughed until she snorted. I pretended to write notes, but mostly listened to the sound of her laughter, something I hadn't heard full strength in months. At the 40-minute mark, Marcus asked her, "Can I draw with you?" She handed him a purple crayon, her silent permission. Together, they drew a big tree with roots stretching across the page. Layla added a swing. Marcus added the sun. When time ended, Marcus respected the signal again. He stood, kissed her forehead, and said, "Thank you for letting me visit your world." It wasn't just goodbye, it was reverence. After he left, Layla whispered, "Daddy's learning." It was half statement, half question. "Yes," I said. "Learning takes time, but he's trying." Sunday, center day. Angela showed up on time, hair pulled back, wearing a plain gray sweater that made her look younger. Miss Tate greeted Layla warmly. This time, Layla didn't ask for me right away. Through the observation window, I saw them color side by side. Angela tried to talk about school supplies, and when she slipped into minimizing, "It was just a haircut," Miss Tate gently corrected her. Angela bit her lip and nodded. At 2:40, Layla raised her hand for a break. I met her in the doorway. "I want to finish the picture," she said. 10 more minutes again by choice. When the visit ended, she refused a hug but allowed Angela to wave. Angela whispered, "I'll wait as long as you need." Driving home, Layla said, "Mommy was softer today." "Did softer feel safe?" I asked. "Not yet," she said, "but maybe later." That night, as I tucked her in, she asked, "Grandpa, why do grown-ups say just all the time?" I thought for a long moment. Sometimes grown-ups use just when they don't want to face how big something really is. It's easier to shrink it with words. She frowned. "But big things stay big, even if you say just." "Exactly," I said. She yawned. "Then I'm not going to use just anymore." As she drifted off, I looked around the apartment. The binder on the table, Bernard by the window, the sunflower drawing on the fridge, paperwork and promises, laughter and supervision. We were walking a tightrope, but for the first time, I felt we weren't wobbling as much. And in that fragile steadiness, I whispered to myself, "One day at a time, old man. One day at a time." By the time the second week of visits ended, I could feel the weather shifting. Not in the sky. Those Chicago winds were always restless, but in the way every phone call, every envelope, every knock on the door carried new weight. Healing is fragile work. It doesn't take much for a storm to stir again. Monday morning started with a letter slid under my door. Thick envelope, official seal. I sat at the table, coffee trembling in my hand, and opened it with Rosa's old letter opener. Inside, a court notice. Status hearing in 3 weeks. Family progress evaluation required. I read it twice, then a third time. I had been preparing for this moment, but seeing it on paper carved a hollow in my chest. 3 weeks meant every step forward would be measured, every mistake magnified. Layla came out of her room, hair sticking up like a crown of dandelions. "Why are you frowning, Grandpa?" "Just reading mail," I said, then corrected myself. "Important mail, but we'll handle it." She squinted at me. "Is it about Mommy and Daddy?" "Yes, baby. The judge wants to see how everyone's doing." She nodded slowly, as if she understood more than a 6-year-old should. "Then I'll tell the truth. That's all I can do." That afternoon, Dr. Harris visited again. I showed her the letter. She tapped it thoughtfully. "This is routine, but it's serious. The judge will want reports from me, from Miss Tate, from DCFS, and from you. Layla's voice matters too. She already said she'll tell the truth. I replied. That's good, Dr. Harris said. But we need to prepare her. Not rehearse, not script. Just help her feel safe saying what's in her heart. After the session, Layla asked if we could make a truth box. She decorated an old shoebox with stickers and wrote little notes about what made her feel safe and what made her scared. Some notes were simple. Grandpa's spaghetti makes me safe. Some were heavier. Mommy's angry voice makes me scared. I folded each one gently, slid them into the box, and promised her we'd bring it to Dr. Harris. Tuesday evening, Marcus stopped by for a door pickup again. This time it wasn't a drawing. It was a small plastic crown Layla had made out of pipe cleaners. For Daddy's notebook, she said when she gave it to me. Marcus held it in his palm like it was gold. She's steadying, Pop, he whispered at the door. I see it every Saturday. Thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me, I said. Thank her for letting you in. He nodded, eyes damp, and walked back to his car. Wednesday, Angela called through the supervised app. The request shocked me. May I write Layla a letter to be read under Miss Tate's supervision? I hesitated. Old wounds wanted to slam the door. But part of me knew that if she was learning, she had to practice somewhere. I'll allow it. I typed back. Sunday at the center. Angela handed Miss Tate a folded letter. Layla watched as Miss Tate opened it, checked it line by line, then passed it to her. Angela sat with her hands on her knees, waiting. Layla read silently, lips moving. When she finished, she put the letter down and looked at Angela. You wrote, I hurt you, and that was wrong. That's the first true thing. Angela's mouth trembled. I'll keep trying to say more true things, she said. For the rest of the visit, they colored sunflowers together. No hugs yet, but no doorway breaks either. Back home, Layla tucked the letter under her pillow. I don't forgive her yet, she said, matter of fact. But I like when she writes instead of yells. Friday, Miss Coleman called to confirm her next home visit. I'll need to speak privately with Layla for part of it, she explained. Standard practice before a status hearing. Will she be asked to testify? I asked. Not formally. She's too young, but her statements through professionals will carry weight. That night, I sat in my room, staring at Rosa's picture again. I whispered, you'd know how to hold this better than me. But the silence reminded me, I was the one here now. Saturday came, and Marcus arrived with a surprise. Not a gift, but a new routine. He pulled out a small notebook and asked Layla, want to help me write our Saturday story? Each page was a few sentences about what they did. We read about wild things. We ate apples. We laughed at Grandpa's snore. Layla added her own doodles. At the end, Marcus wrote, Peanut is brave. Daddy is learning. When time ended, he closed the notebook carefully and said, we'll add more next week. Layla hugged her bear but whispered, okay. Sunday at the center, Angela asked if she could read a book aloud. Miss Tate approved. She chose The Day You Begin by Jacqueline Woodson. Her voice shook at first, but grew steadier. Layla listened, arms crossed, then slowly leaned closer. When the hour ended, Layla didn't ask to leave early. She didn't hug Angela either, but she waved without being asked. Angela looked like she had been handed a second chance at breathing. That night, Layla said, Mommy's voice was different today. Softer. Do you think softer feels safe yet? I asked. She shook her head. Not yet, but maybe next time. As I tucked her in, I realized storms don't always roar with thunder. Sometimes they arrive in envelopes, in hearings, in the tremble of a parent's apology. But so do calms, in letters, in notebooks, in a child daring to wave. And as I sat by the window, binder open, pen in hand, I wrote my own statement for the judge. This child deserves more than survival. She deserves joy. She deserves safety. She deserves every soft day we can build until the storms lose their power. I closed the binder, turned off the lamp, and whispered into the dark. One more week done, old man. Keep walking. By the third week, time began to move like a metronome, steady ticks of appointments, visits, and small rituals that kept the world from spinning too fast. Every morning Layla and I made pancakes or oatmeal, depending on her mood, then checked Bernard the plant as though he were another member of the household. The ordinary moments were a shield, but the upcoming status hearing pressed on my mind like heavy weather. Monday afternoon, Miss Coleman arrived for her private talk with Layla. She carried her small recorder and her notebook, but she also brought stickers and crayons. That balance, the serious and the gentle, was why I trusted her. "Mr. Carter, if you don't mind, I'll start alone with Layla, then invite you in after," she said. I nodded, though my stomach tightened. I watched from the kitchen doorway as Layla sat at the table, chin high like she knew this was important. "Layla," Miss Coleman began, "I want to know how you feel living here with Grandpa. Can you tell me about your days?" Layla thought carefully. "We read books. We eat spaghetti. I water Bernard. I don't have nightmares here." Ms. Coleman leaned forward. "That's wonderful. And how do you feel when you visit with Daddy?" A small smile. "Safe. He does monster voices. He listens." "And when you visit with Mommy?" Layla's hands tightened on her crayon. "I get nervous before. But at the center, Miss Tate makes it safe. Mommy writes letters now. That's better than yelling." "Do you want to keep visiting her?" "Yes, but not at home yet. Just at the center." I felt my throat close. 6 years old, speaking with more clarity than most adults. When the interview ended, Miss Coleman called me back in. "Mr. Carter," she said, "your granddaughter is consistent. She distinguishes between safety here, progress with her father, and caution with her mother. I'll include her words in my report." After she left, Layla climbed onto my lap. "Did I say the right things?" she asked. "There are no wrong things when you tell the truth." I said. "You were brave." That night, I couldn't sleep. Rosa's picture watched me from the dresser. I whispered, "Our baby is carrying too much truth on shoulders too small." But she's carrying it anyway. On Wednesday, Marcus called through the app. "Pop, can I stop by for 5 minutes? I want to show you something." He arrived with his class certificate, completed. Positive Parenting Program, Level 1. He handed it to me like a child with a report card. "I know paper doesn't erase the past," he said, "but I want you to know I'm serious. I'm not stopping here. Level 2 starts next week." I held the certificate, nodded once, and said, "Then keep climbing. Paper helps the court, but showing up helps her." He swallowed hard. "I'll do both." Saturday's visit was quieter than usual. Marcus and Layla added another page to their notebook. We drew a tree with roots. We made Grandpa laugh when he sneezed too loud. Peanut said Daddy's crown shines even when it's bent. I looked at that line for a long time. Children had a way of naming redemption better than any sermon. When time ended, Marcus didn't rush to say goodbye. He knelt, looked her in the eye, and said, "Thank you for trusting me a little more each week." She nodded and let him kiss her forehead without flinching. That alone was progress bigger than any certificate. Sunday at the center, Angela came prepared. She had another letter, already cleared by Miss Tate. This time it read, "I know I scared you. I know I hurt you. I am learning to stop. I want to be better for you. You don't have to forgive me yet." Layla read it twice, then folded it neatly. "I'll keep this one too," she said. They colored in silence for a while. Then Angela asked, "Can you tell me one thing that makes you feel safe?" Layla hesitated, then said, "When grown-ups don't use just." Angela looked confused. Miss Tate explained softly, "She means minimizing. It's a big deal for her." Angela nodded slowly. "Then I won't say just anymore." At the end, Layla waved again. Still no hug, but the wave was steady. On the ride home, she said, "Mommy's words are getting more true." "Do you believe them yet?" I asked. She thought hard. "Not all the way, but some." By Thursday, Dr. Harris scheduled a special preparation session for the hearing. She sat with Layla in the playroom, using dolls to act out a courtroom. One doll was the judge, one was Ms. Coleman, one was me. "What does the judge do?" Dr. Harris asked. "He decides where I stay," Layla said, hugging the child doll close. "And what do you want him to know?" "That I'm not scared here. That Daddy is learning. That mommy is trying, but I need more time. That's perfect, Dr. Harris said. That's the truth. When the session ended, Dr. Harris told me, she's more prepared than most adults. She'll be fine as long as she knows you're close. Friday evening, I sat at the table with my binder. Marcus's certificate went in. Ms. Tate's reports, Ms. Coleman's notes, Dr. Harris's summaries, all clipped and ordered. At the very back, I slipped in Layla's crayon drawing of Bernard with sunglasses, the one she insisted belonged in the serious book. Because in my mind, joy was evidence too. As I closed the binder, Layla patted out in her pajamas. "Grandpa, are you scared about the judge?" "Yes," I admitted. "But scared doesn't mean weak. Scared means you care about what happens." She climbed onto my lap, resting her head against my chest. "Then I'm scared too. But we're strong scared." "Strong scared," I repeated, holding her close. That night, I prayed not for victory, but for clarity, that the judge would see the truth plain as day, in every report, every letter, every child's word, because the truth was heavy, but it was also the only thing keeping us upright. And as I drifted to sleep, I promised Rosa again, I'll carry the weight with her until it's light enough for her to carry alone. The morning of the hearing came like a drumbeat I couldn't silence. I woke before dawn, sat at the table with my binder, and went over every page again. Reports, letters, certificates, each one a brick in the wall I was building around Layla. A wall that had to stand, no matter how hard the storm pressed against it. Layla woke up quiet. She didn't reach for her bear first thing, didn't hum like she usually did. She just stood in the doorway of my room, watching me button my shirt. "Today's the day, right?" she whispered. "Yes, baby. Today the judge listens." She nodded solemnly, like a soldier before battle. I knelt down, fixed her hair into 2 neat puffs, and kissed her forehead. "All you have to do is tell the truth. Nothing more, nothing less." At the courthouse, we passed through metal detectors, the hum of footsteps echoing off marble floors. The waiting room was crowded, families of all kinds, children clutching dolls or coloring books, parents with eyes full of fear or defiance. Marcus was already there, sitting upright in his best suit. He stood when he saw us. "Morning, Pop, morning, Peanut." Layla squeezed my hand, but gave him a shy smile. "Hi, Daddy." Angela arrived moments later, shoulders hunched, gray sweater again. She didn't meet my eyes at first. Her lawyer whispered to her, papers in hand. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. When they called our case, my knees felt heavier than my years. Inside the courtroom, Judge Williams presided, a man in his 60s with a stern brow and kind eyes that didn't miss a detail. He reminded me of the deacons back at church who could scold you with one look, but still slip you a peppermint after service. Mr. Mason presented our side first. He laid out the reports, Ms. Coleman's notes on safety in my home, Dr. Harris's evaluation of trauma recovery, Ms. Tate's supervised visit summaries. He spoke steady and clear. "Your Honor, the child has demonstrated stability with her grandfather, gradual trust with her father, and cautious progress with her mother. We asked the court to extend temporary custody with Mr. Carter while maintaining supervised visits for both parents." Angela's lawyer countered. He acknowledged her past mistakes, but emphasized her therapy, her diagnosis, and her commitment to change. He held up her attendance sheets like shields. "Your Honor, my client has recognized her failings and is working tirelessly to correct them. Denying her the chance to rebuild with her daughter would be counter to the spirit of family reunification." Marcus's lawyer spoke next, brief but firm. "My client accepts responsibility for his lack of protection and has taken substantial steps toward becoming a safe parent. Parenting program completion, ongoing counseling, and demonstrated consistency with the child. He requests unsupervised visitation be considered in the near future." The judge nodded, taking notes, then turned to Dr. Harris, who testified in person. She explained Layla's progress, nightmares decreasing, play therapy showing signs of resilience. But she didn't soften her words. "This child still exhibits clear anxiety triggers when discussing her mother. Returning her to unsupervised care now would risk regression." Then came Ms. Tate. She described the visits with calm authority. Mother has shown improved restraint, but minimization still occurs. Child initiates limited engagement, chooses activities, and has declined physical affection consistently. Father's visits demonstrate warmth and responsiveness. Child expresses anticipation for those sessions. Finally, Ms. Coleman read her report aloud. Her voice was steady, professional. Layla states she feels safe with her grandfather, comfortable with her father in supervised settings, and cautious, but hopeful regarding her mother. She clearly requested continuation of center visits with her mother only, and expressed she does not want to return home yet. The judge leaned forward. "Thank you. Now, I would like to hear briefly from the child, if she is willing." My chest tightened. Layla sat beside me, small legs swinging above the bench. She looked at me, then at Judge Williams, and nodded. The bailiff brought over a small chair. Layla climbed up, back straight. The judge softened his voice. "Hello, Layla. I'm Judge Williams. Do you know why you're here?" "Yes, sir," she said clearly. "You have to decide where I stay." "And what do you want me to know?" "That I'm safe with Grandpa. That Daddy is learning. That Mommy is trying, but I'm not ready to live with her. I want to keep seeing her at the center." The courtroom went still. Even the lawyers shifted quietly. The judge nodded. "And how do you feel today?" "Strong scared," she answered. My throat closed at her words. Judge Williams smiled gently. "That's very brave, Layla. Thank you." He excused her, and she came back to my side, curling into me like she'd just finished running a marathon. Closing arguments came and went, but none of them mattered as much as her small, steady truth. After deliberation, the judge delivered his ruling. The court finds that the child's best interests remain with temporary custody under her grandfather, Mr. Carter, for a period of 6 additional months. The father may continue supervised visitation with consideration for unsupervised visits pending further evaluation. The mother shall continue center-based supervised visits, with progress reports submitted monthly. Any violation of safety protocols will result in immediate suspension of visitation. Angela broke into quiet sobs. Marcus bowed his head, relief and responsibility mixed in his posture. I gripped Layla's hand tighter, whispering thanks under my breath. The gavel fell, and just like that, the storm shifted again. Outside the courtroom, Angela approached us cautiously. "Layla," she said softly, "thank you for being honest. I'll keep trying, even if it takes a long time." Layla didn't answer, just pressed closer to me. I gave Angela a small nod. "Trying is the least, Angela. Keep at it." Marcus pulled me aside. "Pop, I'll earn unsupervised time. You'll see. You'll have to earn it with her, not with me," I said. He nodded, tears brimming, and walked away. That evening, back home, I made spaghetti like always. Layla twirled noodles on her fork and said, "Grandpa, I think the judge listened to me." "He did," I said, voice thick. "Your truth was louder than everything else in that room." She smiled, the first full smile of the day. "Then I'll keep telling it." When I tucked her into bed, she whispered, "Strong scared turned into strong today." I kissed her forehead. "Yes, baby. And tomorrow we build on that." And as I turned off the light, I knew. The reckoning hadn't just been for the parents. It had been for me too. To prove I could carry her, hold the line, and let her truth shine brighter than all the storms combined. The house felt lighter after the hearing, though the order was still temporary. Paper can't guarantee forever, but it can carve out a season of safety, and that was enough for now. The morning after, Layla woke humming. Not the shaky hum of before, but a confident tune as she arranged her stuffed animals in a parade along the blue painter's tape. "We're marching into the future," she announced, Bear leading the way. I stood at the stove flipping pancakes, smiling at her words. Into the future. That's where we were headed, even if the road was narrow. Monday, Marcus stopped by after work for his supervised visit. He looked tired, paint dust still clinging to his jeans, but there was steadiness in his step. He and Layla added another page to their notebook. "We marched with bears. We ate grapes. Daddy said strong scared is a kind of brave. When time was up, he didn't push for more. He kissed her forehead and told her, "Thank you for letting me in." I noticed he always said that now, like he understood trust was something earned minute by minute. After he left, Layla showed me the page and whispered, "Daddy's crown isn't bent anymore. It's fixing." I kissed the top of her head, thinking she understood redemption better than most grown folks. Angela's visits at the center were still measured, but there was progress. On Wednesday, Miss Tate reported, Mother refrained from minimizing language throughout session. Child initiated one question, "Why did you cut my hair?" Angela's answer was halting but honest. "Because I was angry, and I was wrong. It wasn't your fault. I will never do it again." Miss Tate noted Layla's silence afterward, but she didn't cry, didn't retreat to the doorway. Instead, she drew a picture of a girl with hair sprouting like sunbeams. She handed it to Miss Tate, who tucked it into her folder. When I asked her later how she felt about Mommy's words, she said, "They sounded true, but I still don't want hugs." Truth comes before hugs. I told her, "You get to decide when." By the end of the week, the apartment was full of new routines. Homework practice sheets from Dr. Harris. Even though Layla was only 6, she insisted on studying her colors and numbers like she was preparing for college. Marcus's Saturday notebook ritual. Angela's letters folded under Layla's pillow. But there were still shadows. One night, Layla woke screaming, clutching at her face. "She's cutting my eyelashes," she cried. It took nearly an hour of rocking, whispering, and breathing with her before she calmed enough to sleep again. Trauma doesn't vanish with court orders. It lingers like smoke. The next day, I told Dr. Harris. She nodded gravely. That dream may resurface for a while, but her ability to describe it clearly the next morning is a sign of healing. Naming nightmares is the first step toward shrinking them. Saturday's visit with Marcus was different. He brought a small keyboard under his arm. "Don't worry, Pop. It's just plastic," he said quickly. "Thought we could make music." Layla's eyes lit up. She pressed keys with her small fingers, laughter bubbling as the notes clashed. Marcus showed her how to play simple scales. Then they made up a silly song about spaghetti and Bernard the plant. I wrote in my pad but couldn't stop smiling. At the end of the hour, Marcus said, "Next week I'll bring sheet music for a real song, but only if Peanut wants." "I want," Layla said firmly, hugging her bear. "But no loud songs." "No loud songs," he promised. Sunday at the center, Angela surprised us again. Instead of another letter, she brought a blank sheet of paper and crayons. "Do you want to write something together?" she asked Layla. For a long moment, Layla hesitated. Then she drew a sunflower. Angela added a stem. Layla drew sun rays. Angela added soil. Piece by piece, they built the picture without words. At the end, Layla looked at it and whispered, "That one can stay at the center." Angela's eyes glistened. "Okay," she said softly. When Miss Tate summarized the visit later, she noted, "Child-initiated collaborative activity for first time. No signs of distress. Physical affection still declined." That evening, Layla asked me, "Grandpa, do you think Mommy's soil is getting better?" I paused. "Soil can heal if you water it right." "Then maybe one day my sunflower can grow there again," she said. By midweek, Miss Coleman made another home visit. She walked through the apartment, checked the pantry, inspected Layla's room. "Everything looks stable," she said. "Layla, do you feel safe here?" "Yes," Layla replied confidently. "Safe and brave." Miss Coleman smiled at me. "I'll put that in my report." After she left, I sat with Layla at the table. "You know what brave means?" I asked. She grinned. "It means scared but still doing it." "Exactly," I said, marveling at her wisdom. Thursday night, I found Layla in her room whispering to her bear. I leaned in and heard her say, "We tell the truth, even if it shakes." She looked up when she saw me. "That's what you do, right, Grandpa?" "That's exactly what I do," I said. She nodded firmly. "Then I'll do it too." By the weekend, life settled into its strange new normal. Pancakes on Saturdays, spaghetti on Sundays, therapy on Tuesdays, reports filed on Fridays. Each day a brick in the foundation we were building. One night, as I tucked her in, Layla asked, Grandpa, when will the judge decide forever? Not yet, I said. He gave us 6 months. That's a long time to keep showing the truth. She thought about that, then smiled. Then I'll keep drawing sunflowers until forever comes. I kissed her forehead and whispered, that's how you build tomorrow, baby. One sunflower at a time. And in that quiet, with Bernard by the window and the city humming outside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope that tomorrow wasn't just survival. Tomorrow was something we could build. The weeks after the court hearing moved in a rhythm I hadn't expected. Not chaos, not peace, something between. It was like the sound of a clock, steady, insistent, always moving forward. Each tick reminded me that the 6 months of temporary custody were already thinning. That time would force another decision. Layla was thriving in ways that both amazed and humbled me. She had taken to drawing sunflowers in every notebook, on scraps of paper, even on napkins at the diner down the block. Every flower had a wide circle of petals, and every one stood tall. That's me, she explained one morning, pointing to a sunflower she taped to the refrigerator. I'm growing up, even if someone cut me short before. Her words hit me hard. Children shouldn't have to speak like survivors at 6 years old. But she did, because she was a survivor. Angela's supervised visits had begun to stretch beyond letters and drawings. One Sunday afternoon, Miss Tate allowed them to read a children's book together. Angela chose The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, a story about a little boy finding wonder in fresh snow. Angela read slowly, her voice trembling as she held the book. Layla sat on the opposite end of the couch, arms crossed but listening. When Angela reached the last page, where the boy dreams of more snow, Layla whispered, that was okay. It was the first verbal response she had given to her mother in weeks. Miss Tate noted it carefully. For me, it was a tiny crack in the wall Layla had built, though the wall was still strong. That night, as I tucked Layla in, she asked me, Grandpa, why do grown-ups hurt little kids if they say they love them? I froze. Sometimes, I answered carefully. Grown-ups don't know how to handle their feelings. They hurt the ones they love because they don't know better ways. But that doesn't make it right. Will Mommy ever learn the better ways? She asked. I hope so, I told her honestly. But hope is different from trust. Trust has to be earned. Marcus's visits had also shifted. He no longer arrived with paint-stained clothes, rushing. He started showing up early, clean-shaven, carrying something thoughtful, a notebook with new crayons, a puzzle, a keyboard song he had practiced. During one visit, he told Layla, Daddy's learning too, not just from books, from you. She tilted her head. From me? Yes, he said, placing a hand on the little plastic keyboard. Because you teach me that gentle is stronger than loud. I watched her smile then, a cautious one, but real. Angela's progress was slower. She attended therapy 3 times a week, according to her lawyer's updates. Reports said she was committed, but therapy doesn't erase scars in 30 days. One evening, Miss Coleman, the social worker, came by for her monthly check-in. She sat across from me at the kitchen table while Layla played quietly with her crayons. Mr. Carter, she began, I've read Dr. Harris's notes. Layla is showing resilience. Nightmares are less frequent. Self-esteem is growing. But she still displays clear avoidance behaviors toward her mother. That tells us the trauma hasn't resolved. I nodded. She won't even sit close to Angela. And she shouldn't have to. Not until she feels ready. That's exactly right, Miss Coleman agreed. Angela is making measurable progress. But the child's comfort must remain the priority. If we push too fast, we risk undoing everything. The hardest moment came 2 weeks later. Angela asked during a supervised session, Layla, can I give you a hug before you leave? Layla froze, clutching her stuffed bear. She looked at Miss Tate, then at me, her eyes wide with panic. No, she whispered. Angela's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. Okay, no hug. I understand. When we drove home, Layla asked me softly, did I make her sad? I held her hand. You did nothing wrong. You get to decide what makes you feel safe. Mommy has to respect that. But what if she stops trying because I say no? She won't stop, I told her. And if she does, then that tells us she wasn't ready. You are not responsible for grown-ups' feelings. You are only responsible for your own. She nodded slowly, as though tasting the truth of it. That weekend, Marcus asked to talk privately after his visit. We sat on the porch while Layla played hopscotch with chalk on the sidewalk. "Pop," he began, "I need to ask you something hard. Do you think Layla will ever forgive Angela?" I sighed. Forgiveness isn't something we can plan, son. It's not a schedule. It's something Layla might choose, or not, when she feels safe enough. Marcus nodded, staring at his hands. Angela's working hard, but when I look at Layla, I don't know if that wound can ever close. Your job isn't to decide for her, I said firmly. Your job is to make sure no new wounds are made. He nodded again, eyes moist. I failed her once. I won't again. Every night, I wrote down the changes. Not for me, but for Layla, to show her later, maybe years later, that we built this road step by step. Week 5, no nightmares this week. Drew sunflowers every day. Asked fewer am I ugly? Questions. Ate spaghetti with laughter. Week 6, asked about forgiveness. Declined hug from mother, but stood her ground without tears. Played music with father. It was all part of her healing record. One evening, as the sun set red over the city, Layla climbed into my lap with her sunflower drawings. "Grandpa," she said, "if the judge asks me again where I want to live, can I still stay with you?" "Yes, baby," I said softly. "You can always tell the truth." She leaned her head against my chest. "Then I'll keep saying it, until I'm not scared anymore." I wrapped my arms around her. In that moment, I knew the truth too. No matter what court said, no matter what therapy promised, I would never let fear take her crown again. Part 14 ended with the weight of change pressing heavy, but steady. Marcus was learning to be a present father. Angela was struggling to rebuild trust she had shattered. And Layla, my sunflower, was blooming in her own time, petal by petal, against all odds. The day of the final hearing arrived before I was ready. 6 months of temporary custody had passed, and though our home had become a fortress of safety for Layla, the court would decide whether that fortress could stand. That morning, she woke early, already dressed in the little yellow dress we had bought together. "It's my sunflower dress," she told me proudly, twirling so the skirt flared out like petals. Her hair, once shaved cruelly to the scalp, had grown into tight, beautiful curls that framed her face like a halo. She looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, "My crown is back." I swallowed hard, tears threatening. "Yes, baby, and it shines brighter than ever." We ate breakfast in silence. She nibbled her pancakes, nervous. I pretended to read the paper, nervous myself. The weight of what was coming pressed on us both. At the courthouse, the air was heavy with tension. Marcus and Angela sat with their lawyer, hands folded, both looking thinner, worn by therapy and months of supervised visits. Marcus's eyes searched for mine, but I kept my focus on Layla. When the judge entered, everyone stood. He was the same man who had granted me custody months earlier, his face unreadable. "We are here to determine the long-term custodial arrangement of minor Layla Carter," he began. "We have reviewed psychological reports, parental progress, and the child's testimony. Today, we will reach a resolution." My heart pounded. Dr. Harris testified first. Layla has shown remarkable resilience. In her grandmother's care, she has rebuilt trust, reduced her nightmares, and regained confidence. However, she continues to show avoidance behaviors toward her mother. While Angela Carter has demonstrated consistent participation in therapy, the child's comfort and safety must remain paramount. Angela's lawyer stood. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, is there a path for reunification?" "Yes," Dr. Harris replied, "but only gradually and only with the child's consent at each step. Forcing contact would risk re-traumatization." Angela wiped her eyes. Next came Ms. Coleman, the social worker. "I visited Mr. Carter's home monthly. The child is thriving. She is fed, safe, enrolled in school, and emotionally supported. I have no concerns about her grandmother's capacity to provide stable, long-term care." I recommend extending custody with Mr. Carter as primary guardian, with parental visitation to continue under supervision. Marcus lowered his head, shame written across his face. Then came the moment that stole the air from my lungs. The judge called Layla forward. She climbed onto the small wooden chair, legs swinging nervously. She clutched her bear in one hand and looked so small in that big room. "Hello, Layla," the judge said gently. "Do you know why you're here?" She nodded. "To decide where I live." "And where do you feel safe living?" "With Grandpa," she said firmly. "I don't have nightmares there." The judge leaned forward. "Do you love your mommy and daddy?" "Yes," she whispered. "But I don't want to live with them yet. I need more time. I want to keep seeing them, but I want to stay with Grandpa until I'm not scared." Her words echoed through the chamber like bells. Honest, clear, stronger than any lawyer's argument. After testimony ended, the judge called for a recess. We stepped into the hallway, where Marcus approached me. His eyes brimmed with tears. "Pop," he said, his voice breaking, "if the court keeps her with you, will you let me still be part of her life?" "Son," I replied, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're her father. You'll always be part of her life. But you've got to keep showing up. Not just on Saturdays. Every day, in every way." He nodded, tears spilling. "I will. I swear it." Angela stayed back, leaning against the wall. For the first time, she didn't look defiant. She looked hollow. When our eyes met, she whispered, "Tell her I'm sorry. Every day I'm sorry." I said nothing. Those words weren't mine to carry. They belonged to Layla, if and when she chose to take them. Back in the courtroom, the judge returned with his ruling. "After careful consideration, I hereby grant permanent guardianship of minor Layla Carter to her grandfather, Samuel Carter." The gavel fell. My knees nearly buckled. The judge continued. "The parents, Marcus and Angela Carter, will retain parental rights, but visitation shall remain supervised, with gradual increases contingent on continued therapeutic progress and the child's consent. Any attempt to pressure or coerce the child will result in suspension of visitation." The gavel fell again. It was over. That night, Layla and I sat on the balcony of our apartment, Bernard the plant between us, the city lights flickering like stars below. "Grandpa," she said softly, "does this mean I get to stay with you forever?" "Yes, baby," I whispered, kissing her curls. "This means you're safe. Forever." She smiled, setting her bear in her lap. "Then I'm going to draw the biggest sunflower ever tomorrow. Bigger than me. Bigger than this building." I chuckled. "That's the spirit." She leaned her head on my chest. "And when I'm ready, maybe Mommy and Daddy can help me draw too. But only when I'm ready." "Exactly," I said, holding her close. The months that followed were filled with slow healing. Marcus visited faithfully, each time building another brick of trust. He and I spent evenings, talking quietly on the porch after Layla went to bed, rebuilding a father-son bond we'd nearly lost. Angela's progress was harder. Sometimes she wrote letters, sometimes she cried through supervised visits. But she never pushed, never begged. She simply showed up, waiting for the day her daughter might reach back. And Layla, she grew. Her laughter returned, her nightmares shrank, and her drawings filled the walls of our home. Sunflowers everywhere, fields of them, standing tall, bright, unbroken. One spring afternoon, nearly a year later, Layla brought me a new drawing. In it, 3 sunflowers stood side by side, one tall and strong, one bent but reaching upward, and one small but radiant. "That's you," she said, pointing to the tall one. "That's Daddy, try to get tall again. And that's me." I smiled, my eyes stinging. "It's beautiful, baby." She hesitated, then added softly, "One day, maybe I'll draw Mommy too, but not yet." "That's okay," I told her. "You decide when. Your crown, your choice." She grinned. My crown. And in that moment, watching the sun catch her curls, I knew we had made it through. The crown stolen from her had been restored. Not just the hair on her head, but the dignity in her soul. Because sometimes, love means building a fortress. Sometimes, courage means standing when no one else will. And sometimes, the greatest victory is not in winning a battle, but in giving a child the chance to bloom again. My sunflower was safe. My promise had been kept. Forever.